Hello everybody, it's a brand new day and essentially today we're in Rome. I'm here with Gio. He is 50% of the sewing patterns that you see coming out. We work together, both of us do absolutely every part of the process. Small business and all that sort of thing, indie pattern company.
Yeah, the indie pattern company.
Essentially, we are here at an event with Necchi Sewing, which is this right here. It's like a 100-year-old sewing brand, Italian based, and I've been sort of talking with them back and forth for a while. They've sent me a machine for the previous sort of project that we've been doing, where I'm sewing on the go in Egypt. Me and Gio have basically had the idea that we're going to teach you how to make a new sewing project. Basically the exact same process. I take you through it every week of making a garment from scratch, going through the whole, cutting fabric, sewing, using the rough cut patterns. We're basically going to put our brains together and do that here in Rome and take you through a tutorial. We're in Rome for one day today, the event, and then we are going down to Bologna for a few days with the marketing manager lady of Necchi. Yeah, pretty much it's quite a hectic time, but we're going to try and somehow fit a tutorial into this trip, and Gio's going to go and grab the fabric and print the pattern whilst I'm setting up the machine and wrapping the machine. It's going to be like a full process, and then we're going to work together. Gio can be cutting whilst I'm sewing, and then we're going to sort of break down what's going on and how you can build this jacket. So we're going to take you through the process of a bomber jacket, and then from there, I guess we'll just see how this goes. But yeah, we're at the event currently. So to be able to do this tutorial, me and Gio have been talking back and forth of what the different things we're going to need. You're going to have this tools, materials and hardware page, but we've just finished the pattern and we've decided to do this crazy little in Italy tutorial. So by the end of this trip we should have a finished jacket, but Gio's now looking at the pattern itself to try and figure out what size we're going to make and everything like that. I guess we just make like a large.
Yeah.
We're going to do the rough cut Aero, so it'll be like the more complex version of the jacket. The other classic version of the jacket, so the easier bomber jacket, is going to be made by Max. He is a local friend that sews. He's a designer. We're going to need like buttons. We're going to need ribbing, the outside fabric, the lining, the polyester, the zippers. Yeah. And we have nothing. We don't even have the pattern printed. I've come all the way to Italy and I haven't brought anything. We're not prepared for this at all. So we're kind of going to need to sort this out really. Yeah. But yeah, I think we can print the sort of beginning pages, like the cover all the way to where the pages tile in A4, and then we can get the pattern printed in A0, and then we can cut it out here so we have all of our measurements, the same way that when you print it out you'll have either your A0 sheet or you'll have your tiled A4 pages. Got to figure that out first, and then we will get to sourcing fabrics. I'll break down what we're going to use and then hopefully show you the process whilst we're in here / in Bologna. I think the first step would be to go and get the pattern printed.
First step for the Aero Roughcut, I need to put it in the A0.
Do you not have it in A0?
I have it ready to put it in the A0. I have it ready to tile,
Yeah. Okay, well let's do that then.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I've kind of got my own little space here, and the only thing that I did bring was this right here, which is my vinyl wrap. It's this waterproof sort of vinyl stuff. Essentially I'm going to be wrapping this entire machine right here. I do it for all my domestic machines. The previous one that I just did was for the Necchi C35, which is this machine right here. But I did it just before I went to Egypt, so you can kind of see me doing it here. But this one is live in front of people. I'm not like a master at wrapping or vinyl wrapping or anything like that. I kind of just had the idea to do it with a sewing machine, and now I guess they want me to do it in a show, so it'd be fun to showcase. But I'm hoping I have enough tools. I don't have any sewing scissors or anything to be able to do this. The only thing I have is a heat gun, the vinyl, the machine, and maybe a few different tools right here, but I'm hoping there'll be enough. Gio's gonna start tiling the bomber jacket ready, because the pattern isn't even ready yet, and then we'll have it ready soon, and then we'll be able to go straight to the printing shop, print the pattern, and then hopefully whilst I'm wrapping the machine, we'll get the fabric ready too, and then I can start the tutorial for you guys. So let's do it. Maybe as a little bit of backstory before we fully get right into the tutorial. A few months ago I kind of emailed Necchi, maybe like last year, beginning of last year, so it was quite a while ago, coming up to like, you know, maybe a year. I emailed Necchi and I basically tried to reach out for them to sort of sponsor me for the traveling and the sewing sort of stuff, and I just wanted to sort of create that relationship and get a little bit closer with the brand. I've always used the Necchi Q132A, and that's kind of like the great competitor to the classic, you know, heavy duty that everyone purchases, but it's always been the best for me, and I've used it over years. I got recommended it by a friend and I got it, and it lived up to the name, you know. So I emailed them and I was kind of waiting on a reply. It never happened. Well, obviously it did, but I thought it was never going to happen, and then they hit me back on email and were like trying to contact me, and then I was missing their emails, and pretty much they sponsored me with a sewing machine to go out to Egypt, put together a whole jacket in the desert, which I don't know whether that video is out by the time this video is being released, so maybe you've already seen that, or maybe it's to come. Either way, it's very exciting. I managed to complete the jacket. It was hectic as anything, but previously I'd done the same thing in New York and Italy, so it's something that I intend to do a lot over the period of the next few years. And yeah, the relationships kind of sparked from there. They invited me to come out to this event. They're revealing a brand new piece of tech to be put, you know, out to the public today, so we're going to join in their event, and I'm not too sure how this is going to go. I'm hoping that we're going to have enough time throughout the next 3 days to be able to complete this jacket, and I'm hoping with the help of Gio it is able to cut down at least half the time, and we can make sure to explain the right things to you guys chronologically, so you're able to follow this as a tutorial but also watch as a vlog. So yeah. So, I've just taken apart the C35 Necchi machine, and I'm about to wrap it in some black and white vinyl, the stuff I just showed you. Whilst I do that, Gio is going on the hunt for a print shop to print the pattern, and a fabric shop. He's going to take the other camera, so you'll see both our perspectives. Bye, Gio.
Yes. I'll see you in a bit.
See you in a bit. Quite funny because I am not a heat wrap expert in any way, so I think people who are walking past, I don't know whether they're thinking I'm an absolute idiot or they're assuming that I know what I'm doing, because I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I've only done this like 4 times, but it's just kind of funny, you know, like I've done this 4 times. It's worked well every time that I've done it, so now we're doing it live apparently, and I was just thinking about it. I've only bought 1 piece of vinyl, so this can't go wrong at all. It's going well. I need to clean up the insides, but it's pretty much just heat gun, scalpel knife, little knife, and then just waterproof vinyl wrap, and that's pretty much it, to be honest. And a lot of patience. I don't know how I'm going to get the whole machine done, and these parts can be really, really hard, so I guess we'll have to see how it goes. I'm going to put you in my mouth so you can see what I'm doing. Hold on.
Just went out to go get the fabric and the pattern printed, and it's raining. Wow, I didn't came prepared for this, but I had to get the stuff, zipper, buttons, everything. We basically have nothing. So first stop for me is the print shop, because we need to get the pattern printed. So if we don't, there's no point of getting the fabric and everything. Luckily, we have a print shop like 4 minutes walking from here. Hopefully they have the A0 format, then straight to getting the fabric and the trimmings. Just got to the print shop. Now I'll see if I can print it right away, and hopefully it's not that expensive, but I mean, it doesn't matter really. Was really successful. I mean, I was able to get everything, the pages and the pattern. I just got out of the print shop and yeah, it was amazing. And it stopped raining, so yeah, let's go. I need the fabric right now.
Now we're on to the big part, the main sort of part of the machine. If it's going to mess up, it's probably now, but it won't. It will go really well. So far, all the pieces I've done, so I've done the side piece of the machine, I've done the little sort of opening bit where you can keep all your tools, that kind of front piece, and then I have done the very underneath of the machine. And now I've just got the main front piece and the main back piece to do, and then we should be able to put it back together and then get on with this tutorial. So wish me luck. And yeah, obviously it's in front of an audience of people that keep going in and out and stuff, so yeah.
So now, just up the street, there's a fabric shop that is called Cloth House. So I'm gonna see if I can find everything there, but I think that I'll have to go to another fabric shop maybe. I don't think they'll have everything, but yeah, I'm worried about the zipper. I don't know where I can get a zipper. Hopefully they have one.
That right there's the position that I want the vinyl to be on the machine, but last time I had someone to help me like hold both sides and hold it in place. I've got to try and like put the machine under that and line it up correctly, so it's going to be a little bit tricky, but I'll try it. Well, the heat press is now broken, which is absolutely great. Halfway through the process, completely busted. So we're using Gio's computer to play some videos. So I'm playing the sewing on the go and a tutorial in the background. And yeah, the heat gun is now completely packed up, so I don't know what to do with that. I think we're gonna sort of wait a second and see if it just needs a little bit of a cool down, but yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Otherwise I can't finish wrapping it. I hope Gio's doing well with the finding the fabrics.
So I have the quilted fabric for the lining, but still I need some good like outer fabric for the jacket. They didn't have anything good. They just had like waterproof fabrics in color like emerald green and pink. So it was like, okay, thank you so much. It was so awkward because I don't really know Italian, so I was like translating with ChatGPT and everything. It was hilarious. I was like, "Dove posso trovare tessuto for pioggia?" But still, the guy was lovely and he was very patient with me. It was really nice. But yeah, I'm going to another fabric shop, so let's hope I find something. Yeah, let's get it.
I think it's going to be quite hard finding the material we need for a bomber jacket in central Rome. So I remember the last time I came to Rome and it was very, very hard to find the right fabric I needed. It was a lot of upholstery fabrics and stuff like that, but maybe he's just smashed it and found something. Or maybe he is just very stuck. This will be a tutorial. If you want to like skip forward and get straight to the tutorial of the jacket, it will be this timestamp right now. But this is the whole story behind it, and this is what makes us a little bit different, I guess, is that we're doing all these tutorials, but it's more than that. It's a whole story behind it, you know? So yeah.
So basically what happened was, in the first shop there wasn't any good outer fabric, so I had to go to another one. Hopefully it was like near, and I got some heavy polyester fabric, like water repellent and everything, and it was the best one. So got it in a brown color, and Now I need to get the ribbing because they didn't have any ribbing. I need to go. The problem is the store that I'm going is like 20 minutes from here, and I've been walking like 10 minutes now. So yeah, we'll get there and I'll see if I manage to get something. Still need a zipper and some fabric shears. I need tons of stuff. Hopefully they have ribbing. They told me it was like very hard to find, but I doubt it. I think they don't really know where you can get ribbing, so everything that is left on the list, hopefully I'll find it there. Look at this. The Colosseum looks fucking crazy.
Got a hairdryer.
I'm just like 5 minutes away. Just in one trip to getting fabric, I managed to see the Colosseum and so much beautiful stuff, really. It's incredible. So let's hope they have the ribbing. If not, really, I don't know what we're gonna do, but we'll find out. So I managed to get everything out of the last fabric store that I went. Had to go like really quick because they were about to close. So now I'm going back where Jack is. The problem is I don't know where it was, but I know the way back, so I will just do like the whole way back I did. So yeah, I'm happy because I have everything, and let's hope it turns out good. Yeah, so excited for it.
Update from me. I have just finished wrapping the machine, so it's fully done now, and it looks really, really nice. Just cut out that Necchi there, and yeah, so I'm going to put it all back together, screw it all back together, and then I guess the project begins. I hope Gio's doing good out there in the field trying to find the fabrics. Hopefully he's doing very well. I put a lot of trust. I haven't seen anything yet, so hopefully he brings me back the perfect material to build the pattern that we've created and teach you guys how to do it. So, yeah.
So I'm nearly there with Jack. It's been just walking and walking and walking like tons, but it's been amazing. The views here are crazy. Got everything. So yeah, I'm very happy. Just so excited to start making this project. Been awesome so far. I hope Jack is doing good with wrapping the sewing machine and everything. He told me like his heat gun just broke down halfway through. So yeah, and when I left the event it was packed with people, and I don't know how is it now, but we'll find out.
He's back. How did it go?
Good, amazing.
Really good. You've got everything. Let's see what he's brought back.
Check everything.
Nice.
The outer shell, it was the most thick.
That's the one. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
There's the lining.
Nice. Perfect. Got the printed pattern. We've got the PDF so we can break down exactly what we're doing to you guys. Scissors. Oh, you got some nice scissors too. Buttons. Perfect. Ribbing.
they sold ribbing like this, and they only had like black
Okay, well we'll make it work. It looks good. It looks alright.
lining for the pockets.
Let's go. Let's have a look at the ribbing. Oh no, this would be good.
Yeah,
This is not bad.
yeah, it's not bad at all.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so we've got all the ingredients. Gio, you smashed it.
Yeah,
You did amazing.
Yeah,
Did you film it?
Yeah, I filmed.
The whole thing?
Yeah. Also, thread cover, zipper. The one that was like longer enough, it was like a double zipper.
That's it. Wow, perfect. You got the nice thread. Amazing. So whilst I've been doing the sewing machine, Gio has obviously gone and got everything, and we're gonna break everything down to you in the pattern right now, and then we'll get to construction. So the machine is fully wrapped now, and I'm gonna take you through all the pattern itself right here, all the different pages that you will receive if you download the A4 version, and you'll have them anyway if you get the A0 version also. I'm gonna take you through all the tools, materials, hardware, everything you will need to be able to create this MA1, MA2 inspired bomber jacket, and then by the end of the video you will have a finished bomber jacket, and so will we, hopefully. So yeah, let's do it. So now is the part of the video where we're getting onto the tutorial itself, and I'm going to show you how to make this MA1, MA2 inspired rough cut version of the Aero jacket. The classic Aero jacket you can find on my channel too. It is a tutorial built by one of my closest friends, Max, and he's showing you how to basically put the basic shell of the jacket together. I'm going to show you the more complex version, and me and Gio haven't really done any favors for ourselves because we're making it on the go in Italy, as you can see. But Gio went out to the fabric shops, as you saw if you've just watched the prior part of the video, and sourced all the fabric. So we've got an outer shell fabric, which is 3 meters, which is, the width is 140, was it? Yeah, 140. And then we have a pocketing fabric, which is for lining the insides of the pockets. And then we obviously have some matching thread. We have some fabric scissors, some paper scissors. We have all of the different zips that we will need for the pocketing. We have a 50-60 centimeter zip. We have the main zip, which we can always cut down if it's too long, but that looks quite long, doesn't it? Anyway, the pattern will show you what size zipper to buy. We're kind of doing this on the fly, so yeah. But anyway, you need maybe like a main zipper and then 2 zippers for like pockets or welted pockets and stuff like that. I'm using snippers, and then we have our ribbing for the jacket itself. So this is the elastic that would go on the cuffs. It would also go on the waist, maybe the neckline if you're doing a ribbed collar as well. Got some pins, essential, and then obviously some poppy buttons for certain parts of the jacket, which will, you know, clip over the zip covers, you know, different parts that will fold over. I'm going to take you through the first few pages of the pattern itself in A4. I will go through the pages of the pattern. It basically takes you through some stuff that we've already spoke about with tools, materials, hardware. I'll place that on the screen. And what we've done, which is different to what you'll probably do, is Gio went out and basically printed the A0 of the pattern, so we have 5 pages to cut out. This is just easier for us on the go. If you can't be bothered to tile, 80 pages together, then feel free to purchase the A0 pattern through our website. Either print it out yourself or I can ship it to you. This is basically the pattern without the pattern. The pattern is here, the pre-pages are here. So I'll take you through these, and then we will cut the pattern, cut the fabric. When you get to cutting the fabric, it tells you how many pieces of each bit of fabric you need to cut, where you need to cut it, all of that information. But first, let's go through the pattern itself. So I'm very briefly going to take you through this sewing pattern page by page, but I want you to know that if you're going to make this jacket, we've played very much on the heritage of a bomber jacket in general. This jacket is very influenced off old flight jackets in the military in the USA. We've paid very big homage to like the idea of like the weighty volume, you know, like functionalities and why certain things are the way they are. So a lot of the pages in this pattern, there's a lot of history, and I recommend reading it all, but I'm very, very briefly going to go over it, so I won't read each page, but it's very important, and I think once you understand the jacket you're making, then you'll be able to make the best version of it. It really shows you why these sort of arms are like the croissant kind of like bagginess. It shows you why the cinching matters, why the volume control, all of that different thing. So, right here you've got the Aero jacket. This is the Aero jacket rough cut that we are doing, and this image should be different for you. This is a skill level 4. And it is graded between extra small all the way up to triple XL. You've got your 2x2 inch square. This is on the first page. I recommend that you basically need to get this correct. So you can print out this first page until you get the printing process and settings right, and then you can print the rest of your pages and you'll know your whole pattern is ready to go. Again, I'm going to go over this very quickly, but you shouldn't. You should look into all of the different pages. Contents page goes through everything that you're about to look at. Intent and approach, this is like the introduction page of like what a bomber jacket is, how it's not tailored to the body, what it was used for. Then you've got the you won't be alone. This is just a little bit of reassurance for if you've never made a jacket before. It kind of shows you the different sort of like things that you can find, like support that is built in, like with the WhatsApp group chat and all that different thing, the full YouTube tutorial, which is this, and then it just basically says that nothing is mandatory, so you can choose what sort of ways you want to go down with different avenues and stuff like that. You have the flight jacket evolution. It basically shows you all the inspirations that we went to be able to create this final pattern here. So we went through different A2 flight jackets, N2B flight jackets, MA1, MA2, your classic military flight jackets, and we've found inspiration in each one of them and sort of added it to the pattern itself. Volume and silhouette basically goes through what I said just a minute ago, how the volume and the controlled volume really matters with something like this, so it's very important for you to, pay attention. Neck systems, this is where we start talking about the modular details of this pattern. The same with the keystone denims, which I did previously. You have a choice, so you can either do rib knit collar, insulated collar, or a fishtail hood, and it basically goes into the history of why these things are important, where they were used in military uses. You have the Aero jacket system. This page basically breaks down what's a fixed structure, which is kind of the base of the jacket, and then it tells you what you can change going forward and whilst you're on your path of building your jacket. You've got the pocket systems. This is where it gets interesting. Obviously you can pick what pockets you want to do and all these different things, but we'll get to that and I'll show you all that when we get there. You've got the quilting and insulation. Gio went out and bought this quilting right here. It's already pre-quilted, ready to go. But if you're buying polyester and then you're buying wadding separately, then you probably want to read this page, because it goes through the densities of quilting and why they're important. High density, more warm, open quilting being like maximum mobility in the piece of clothing and stuff like that. But you can read these pages, as I said. Sizing and measurements, we've got a table which basically goes through all the measurements and you can pick which one works for you. There is also a PDF which I've attached which shows you how to take all of your measurements so you can find out which size fits you perfectly. Remember that the sizes and the size guide is for the final garment measurement, so just use another bomber jacket or use a very similar jacket that you own to measure to get the right size. Materials, I'm not going to go through this, you can read this and make sure you get the right materials. Hardware, you can read this, make sure you get the right hardware. Tools and notions, I just showed you what we're going to use for this project, so you don't really need too much. As long as you've got the basics for sewing, then you could definitely do this jacket. Print, stick, cut, scan the QR code if you're unaware of how to tile the pages together. As I said, there is a lot of pages, so feel free to get the A0 like we have instead. I think that is pretty much it. There's a pattern glossary if you don't understand the icons, there's a simple build guide, and then there's the extra pages for support where you can ask people in the group chat or watch this video, which you're already doing. And that is it. Now, me and Gio are going to cut out the A0 pattern, and then we will touch basis with you guys when we have all of our different panel pieces. Remember to be careful sort of corresponding what size you're cutting with the dotted and dashed line. And yeah, we'll catch up with you once we've cut the pattern and got the panel pieces ready. So see you in a bit. So we're going to use the embroidery machine to embroider onto this piece of fabric, which is going to be the outside middle panel. I just realised you've spelt panel wrong. Sorry. No, we're gonna embroider the Necchi logo onto the front of the fabric, and then we're gonna cut the pattern piece afterwards. If we do it in a big piece like this, then it means that we can go back and then cut the pattern and position the logo where we want it on the panel. I think the machine is here. I'll try and show you. This machine right here. It was doing some embroidery earlier, which is this, and it actually looks incredible. Like, it's a really cool machine. So I think it will turn out really, really nice. So, it's quite a long process cutting out the pattern pieces, but I just wanted to mention the embroidery's going, which is very exciting. And we're not using all of the panel pieces right here. We're not making a rib knit collar. We're not actually doing the hood either. I'm going to show you how to do the hood, but I might cut that into the video at the certain point where I think I need to cut it in to show you how to do it. And then I don't think, if you already know how to do the insulated collar from us showing you and the hood, then you probably will know how to do the rib knit collar. It's very straightforward. It's just cut the shape, fold it, and then just do the same way you'd sort of input the insulated collar, but with the rib knit. Basically, some of these pockets, as you know, are modular. So we're not choosing to do these, we're choosing to do the cargo pocket, and that is mainly because it matches the Aero Roughcut a little bit better. So we're going to do the cargo pocket and leave some of the stuff, like this fishtail hood top we're going to leave, and the zipper cover we are going to leave because we have the rough cut one on the back over here. So I just wanted to mention, if you're wondering why we're scrunching up all of this, it's because we don't need it. But you might need it. So I've just moved over here just to look and admire and cut out the fabric in piece. But the embroidery looks really, really, really nice. Just got a Necchi logo on the fabric, and then I'm just going to cut out the pattern piece now, just line it up. I just kind of need the table so I can see what I'm doing and have a little bit more space. Gio is now cutting the fabric. I just cut the one out with the embroidery. I did 2 of them with front facings because it says on the pattern itself, cut 2 mirrored. So we've just folded the fabric here. Make sure you're paying really close attention to, you know, where it says cut 2 mirrored, and make sure you're paying attention to where you want to add pocketing fabric, where you want to do it out of your outside lining and your outside fabric. If you've made one of my patterns before, then you know what all this does. But if you don't, go to the pattern glossary and it will explain. So yes. Rome is absolutely beautiful, even the side roads. Not to take England for granted in that way, but Jesus Christ, just look at this. Even that, look. It's so grand and massive, and there's cool things everywhere. I think Rome is amazing. We're going to try and stay one night here, so in the Airbnb. We were going to head straight down to Bologna, but I'm not entirely sure what we're doing yet. We're at the stage where we're cutting the fabric. I think that bit's quite self-explanatory because the pattern says to cut however much fabric as I mentioned. So yeah, vlog part of the video. Again, me and Gio are sat having a beer and a little drink, and we decided not to go down to Bologna tonight because we needed to go to a fabric shop to get more of that brown fabric, which is our outer shell of the bomber jacket. We didn't have enough by just a little bit, so we went to the fabric shop, got more of that, and now we've booked an Airbnb where we can carry on the process and show you all of the stitching, and I'm going to swap in and out with me and Gio. He's going to do some sewing and teach you how to do some stuff, so am I. And then we're going to do a little bit of sightseeing, and we just wanted to kind of stay in Rome one more night, and then tomorrow we go down to Bologna, and hopefully we finish the jacket tonight, but maybe we finish it tomorrow. So I don't know, we're kind of taking it how it goes, but I hope you're enjoying the vlog style tutorial. It's a little bit different from the normal tutorials, but it's a bit of fun. So yeah. Beer, Aero spritz. We just arrived at the Airbnb, so we're going to finish cutting the fabric, and then we'll get on to the tutorial of how to sew it together. We luckily enough took another Necchi machine from the event, which is this right here, and we basically just took it with us so we can sew tonight in Rome and then sew all the way down to Bologna tomorrow. So, Gio and I are still cutting the fabric. I have moved on to cutting the lining. So again, if it says like cut to outer shell, cut to lining, you're gonna have your lining sleeves and your outer shell sleeves right there. And Gio's working on the outer shell. I'm just cutting the lining and I'm putting mine over there. We're just swapping round jobs. We've got loads of pins, good fabric scissors. These are really fucking good, these scissors. I kind of want a pair. So this is the state of the Airbnb at the moment. Gio's finishing cutting the outer shell right now, doing the back neck and all the different sort of pockets with the grain line facing the right way. That's quite important. When you're doing these patterns, you want to make sure that the grain line is the correct arrow following the grain line of the fabric you're using, because otherwise you might have like weird sort of bits of fabric that kind of, how would you describe it, Gio? It's sort of just, you know, the stretch goes the wrong way when you're putting in pockets and stuff like that.
It is that, but also the fabric just follows like a weave pattern. So if you don't match the grain lines between pieces, you can, if you're close enough, you can see like the weaving go like everywhere.
The wrong way,
so
yeah.
You just want to see like the weaving all consistent across all of the
across
pieces.
like the whole garment for sure. So what I've been doing is I've just like, these are all the pieces in order. So you have the sort of chest piece, which the embroidery is on the middle there. That's where I'm putting the welted pocket. And then this is the cargo pocket gusset. You've got the center front bottom flap. You've got the zip cover. And again, all of these you want to make sure you're cutting ×2 of whichever ones you need. And then the cargo pocket, obviously that goes with the cargo pocket side gusset right there. And the Airbnb actually has an iron. I don't know if you just saw me finding the iron and being like, whoa, but it has an iron. So what we're going to do, and I think the way we're going to do this, is just finish cutting all of the fabric. And over here, what I have been doing, let me show you, is the pieces that match up. For example, inside here we have the inner lining. The front facing, sort of like the inside center front facing, would obviously connect up to the lining, just like this right there. I'll show you without the shadow, just like this. So what I've done is I've just thrown pins, and I know that I'm going to do this with a 1/4 seam allowance stitch all along this edge right here. So I've just pinned them ready with this panel, and the same with the arms. I know which bits connect which. So I've done the small bit connecting to the small bit, front facings again, and then the big side connecting to the other big side on the corresponding small sleeve and main sleeve too. So pretty much I'm just getting the pinned bits down with the outer shell and the inner lining. And then with the machine that you can see right in front of us there, we are going to go eat some food and try and like find somewhere. We're in the direct center of Rome, so we've just walked down the road from the Colosseum, and we're at our Airbnb, which is absolutely amazing. But we're going to find somewhere in town to sew. It needs power because we don't have a battery, but we are going to figure that out and try and do it in some like coffee shop or pub or somewhere where we can have a beer, and I can connect the mic and sort of just, we can both chill. You can hear what I'm saying. It's not too crowded, and then we can get on with the tutorial. Because a lot of it is just stitching together the bits that correspond. There is a few little bits and bobs which is good for me to mention. And then I'm going to swap in and out with Gio, and he's going to teach you how to do some stuff too. And it'll just be like a fun little tutorial. So yeah, corresponding all the pieces, pinning what I need to pin with the lining and the front facings and all of that sort of thing, and just making sure at this stage that you've literally got everything ready and you're cutting the right amount of each panel. Because if you miss a panel, that's like a massive part of your jacket that you then need to go back and make sure that you've cut, you know. Anything else you want to say?
I'm excited. I just want to cut all the pieces like just fast.
Yeah.
I think the best way to approach a garment is like just cut everything and then you forget about cutting all the pieces, you know. So just go straight to sewing.
Definitely, I would cut everything at once too, because if you cut, you know, a little bit and then decide you want to sew it, then you know you've got quite a long way to go. I like to cut everything and then just like categorize it, and then when it gets to the sewing project and actually, you know, putting the thing together, you sort of like have a bit more understanding of what you're doing, you know. So yeah, I've just got all the lining ready. I basically pinned everything that I just mentioned to you, and I did the exact same for the outer shell sleeves. So the long side and the short side, I just pinned together front facing, and that basically just means that when I go to sew wherever we are sewing, I can literally just stitch straight along and it will already be pinned for me. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, whilst Gio is going crazy with the cutting, you're kind of done with the cutting, aren't you? You're finished. Nearly. I'm just going to explain the back mechanism and how the pleat sort of works and how the yoke works. So you can now sort of iron it at the right time. You can take the paper away, iron it, and then I can sort of show you how it works. So I'm going to basically just demonstrate here. I've added 2 pins on either side, but what I've done is I've folded it over on the corresponding dotted line. It says fold line for pleats. Obviously you correspond your correct size, and it should fold over naturally perfect, so it sort of joins in the middle. And you can see throughout this line it sort of curves in, maybe a shot from above. You can see it kind of curves inwards and then goes back out. You can see it corresponds perfectly with your sort of back side, which obviously curves in the same, just like that. What you want to do is you actually want to sew these front facing, so the curves would match. And then when you turn that inside and it goes in and everything's pinned, this will perfectly sit on that line like this. And you're doing it the same for the other side. And then you're top stitching it down, and this will basically just create an opening sort of pleat in between the 2 sort of sides. So you can see that I'll just demonstrate this too, just like that, and then it has that sort of opening pleat in the middle, just like there. And then you obviously have 2 side pieces, so then one would do the other side too. And then once that's done, you want to grab your yoke piece, and you can see again we have cut 2 yoke pieces, and this is the front facing. And what we're going to do is we're going to stitch all around the bottom, turn inside out, and then top stitch the bottom, and then that perfectly matches up just over the top of the back panel. So then you'd have this really nice pleat, and then it layers over, and then the yoke sort of layers over that. So that's kind of how the back works. I'm actually going to get Gio to quickly help film the ironing process, just because I feel like you need to understand that part more than anything in this tutorial. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Kind of like a little bit of a tricky part of the tutorial.
Yeah.
But essentially, just front facings of your center back pleat need to go with the center of your side back, and they need to correspond with the folded line. Make sure you're front facing, you're stitching, folding inside out, ironing, and then it should create this pleat with the fold when you've pressed it. And then do the exact same on the other side, and then stitch together your yoke and then layer it on top of both, and it should all perfectly match together, so you have this super nice layered back panel. We kind of got some references together and some inspiration, and then Gio went crazy with the pattern, and it looks really, really good. So yeah, I'm going to try and show you me ironing it so you understand. But I'm not going to sew it, I'm just going to pin the stuff together, and then when we're sewing out on the field, then we'll get to explaining it. So let's do that. So I just want to confirm this once more. This is your front facing, and this is the folded sort of pleat on the inside of the back. What you're going to do is you are going to grab your front just like this, and we're going to kind of imagine that this pleat is placed on the inside of that piece right there. There you can see we don't want this raw edge right here, so the way that we would basically do it is we'd grab this middle panel, flip it all the way over so the fold is facing up that you've just made. You'd stitch together with a 1/4 seam allowance all along this raw edge, and then when you basically turn it round back the other way, it'll be connected to your side back panel, and it should look something like this, and then you can top stitch all the way down this curved sort of middle back piece. And then you're just doing the exact same thing to the other side. So the other side perfectly sort of sits, and then you have this middle pleat sitting there. And you can kind of stitch these top pieces over here and the bottom pieces just to sort of lock this shut, and then yeah, then you've got your pleat. I'm just trying to help you understand that pleat, back pleat, a little bit better. Hopefully that makes sense. You've got your two side back panels, your middle folded pleat, and then it all just goes in on itself, and then you can stitch and lock it shut at the end. I'm going to explain this one last time when I'm sewing, but you have two explanations now, so hopefully it makes a little bit more sense. The plan of action was to go and find some kind of pub or cafe or restaurant that we could use the sewing machine and sew inside of. But me and Gio are incredibly tired because we, you know, I wrapped a machine, Gio went and got all the fabric, and then it's just been a very hectic day, so we've decided to give it a little rest for tonight and just go out, get some food and just chill out a little bit. But we're going to basically head to Bologna tomorrow, which is where the lady who basically organised everything today, she has invited us to stay around for 2 days before we fly out from Bologna. I'm going to try and find, with Gio, a place in Bologna where I can sort of set up for the day and just smash the whole process out. It's the first tomorrow, we've got the second and the third to get this jacket completed. Not like a rushing situation, it's just more like, you know, a little bit more sort of mellow, and I can have time to be able to describe to you the processes and make sure that you understand everything. I think if I went out now, I'd probably rush that, and I'd probably be getting quite annoyed because I'm a little bit tired. I need food. Anyway, one more thing before I go, and that is for your zip cover, which is the inside zip cover, not the curved outside one that you'll be using to go over. The inside one, and you can do it to the outside one too, actually. Basically, I have folded the zip cover over, and then underneath the bottom layer, I have pinned 2 layers of my 4-ounce already quilted wadding. And the reason that I've done that is because when I turn it out the other way, it will basically be quilted on the inside. So also do that. You're going to want to do the same thing for your collar, because we're making an insulated collar. And then if you want to do it with your outside zip cover, then do that also. I'm going to get all my stuff ready. We have our lining ready, our outer shell. Gio is just finishing up unpinning pockets, and Gio actually did a little pocket bag for the cargo pocket too. The way you would do that is you literally just cut the exact same panels out of the main panel and the side gusset, and then sort of stick them together, construct the pocket as if you're doing it again with the lining, and then place it inside the pocket. And yeah, we're just categorizing everything: outer shell, lining. I'm adding pins where I'm going to stitch, and then I'll talk you through everything when we're actually sewing again tomorrow, so it all makes sense. So for now, giving it a rest. See you tomorrow.
Well, if you see it from this perspective, you can watch like the sun coming out, you know?
The sun coming out of what?
The sun coming out of the horizon.
That's very inappropriate, Gio.
I did. I wasn't the one who said it.
But it's actually his hand.
Yeah.
If you're wondering what's going on, I am in Bologna now with Gio. We just arrived in Bologna with Andrea and Emanuela, who basically just held the event yesterday. We travelled all the way down. I was going to sew on the train, but it kind of is it was too crowded and we didn't get a table seat. So what I'm doing in the meantime is I'm stitching the halves that I don't need to show you how to do them now. So like you'd have like the two facings of the inside lining, so I'm just sewing one of the facings of the inside lining, and then tomorrow or whenever we actually get into this tutorial I will obviously show you how to do it, and it just saves a little bit of time for me in the future of this video, so I only have to explain once to you and then I don't have to then go and do the other mirrored side. So that's essentially what I'm doing. So essentially I'm sewing one half of the arm, so one left arm lining, one left outer shell, one left inside lining. I'm basically sewing half the jacket now, and then I can explain to you how to do the other half later, and it will all make sense. So let's do it. This is such like a nice spot to sew because there's music playing, as you can see, and we got the basilica. I'm guessing. I think it must be the basilica because it's massive. But yeah, no, there's like a museum opposite. I'm guessing that's a museum. But yeah, no, it's an incredible place. If you're wondering how I'm powering my sewing machine, Andrea brought an extension lead, and it's powering all the way from the inside cafe. So yes, it's very good. I've never ever used this tool right here, this cutter. I just use snips even on a domestic machine. I don't think I've ever really used that tool. Maybe like once or twice, but it's kind of crazy, right? Who needs an iron when you've got pins? Gio doesn't agree with that.
The thing with the iron is that with a good iron, you can make a $10 garment feel like a $1,000 garment.
True. I think ironing is very important. I kind of need to get a new iron for my studio because my iron is very, very, very bad. The red embroidery on this brown looks absolutely insane. I'm going to show you how to stitch this later, but for now I'm just going to do one side, and then you don't need to know how to do the other side. It just speeds up my process. Whoa, so this is a brand new day and a bit of a switch of locations. We are actually in one of the Necchi HQs, and I've got the same machine I was using yesterday. I've added a table. Gio is behind the camera, and I'm going to take you through the rest of the process and make sure that I fully teach you how to make this jacket. So we can move the machine out the way and I can show you all the panels on the table to make sure that you fully understand what I'm doing, and to make sure I've obviously shown you the right thing so you're able to complete this jacket too. So less moving around now. We're going to finish the jacket in here, and yeah, let's smash it out. Thank you, Necchi, for having us again. Me and Gio have had an amazing time, and these machines, they're amazing. They're so good. Let's smash this jacket out. I've basically laid out all of the panel pieces so I can individually talk you through what's going on with each part of the Aero Roughcut. So these are the back pieces. These over here are the front pieces. These are all of the strip pieces. So for example, the collar, the outer sort of zip cover and the inner zip cover. And then over here we've got the arms and then the lining. This all goes together and then makes your jacket. but I'm just going to lay everything out flat on the table individually, and then you can sort of have a full understanding of what's going on, and then we'll slowly take you through the process and everything will start to make sense. Again, on this jacket there is things that I have already sewn, like this outer shell front top piece that sort of works as the flap for the pocket, and also the piece that goes right there, and then the shoulder connects above. I've already sewn this because, as I showed you, there is 2 pieces, and I can still kind of show you the process on this side piece, and then you just replicate it on the other piece too. Yeah, so pretty much I'm going to take you through everything and make sure you fully understand how to sew this jacket. Let's start with the arms. With the arms, it's very, very straightforward. You obviously have a long side of each of your panel pieces. If I remove this one to the side, you can see it very clearly in these 2 pieces right here. You basically sew these 2 pieces right here, and this will be the back of the arm. This will wrap around the front. The way we're going to do that is we're going to grab the front facings, and you obviously connect up the long side to the long side, and then once that is stitched, you can choose to top stitch it whilst it's open, and then it should sit nicely and create this sort of curve. The reason these seams are curved is so it creates that sort of ballooned croissant type arm where there's loads of sort of volume in the arm. So when that's top stitched and stitched together, then we can flip it over and it should carry its weight over like this. And then we're going to do the same, stitch down this line because they match up perfectly with that 1/4 seam allowance applied. And then again, we can then get that awkward sort of top stitch when the arm is together. And then that will complete our sleeves. So these 2 pieces perfectly go together. I'm going to show you how to sew that now. And make sure your front facings are fully together, and then you can use like 3 pins to be able to pin once in the start, the middle and the end, and then just follow this curve with a 1/4 seam allowance. With the top stitch, there's a bigger and a smaller panel, as you know. The bigger panel is going to fold over the smaller panel. So basically all of that excess underneath sort of, loose edge of the fabric with the seam we've just created tucks underneath the bigger side, and then you just hit that top stitch all the way along. This just keeps it really consistent. So both sides are going to do the same, and it looks symmetrical with both the top stitches running on the inside of the smaller panel. Let me show you. And then we're literally just doing the exact same thing. Like I said, just folding over that front facing, and make sure you're doing it on the right side and you're doing it on the front facing and not the inside, because you might get the stitches wrong. And we're just going to match these up with 3 more pins, the same as we've done before, and then just stitch all the way down and then hit a top stitch on the outside. This is kind of the awkward bit right now. You've just top stitched the sort of longer side, but top stitching the shorter side obviously is going to be a little bit harder because the sleeve is now together. So the way to do it is you just want to be sewing from the bigger hole, sort of where the arm, the sleeve opening is, not the wrist hem. You want to be doing it from the bigger sort of, hole in the sleeve, and pretty much just hitting a top stitch, making sure that again that consistency with the excess fabric being folded underneath the bigger panel, and then your top stitch, just like this one, should be facing inwards. It's kind of harder for us because we're using like this waxed polyester, so it's really tricky to get right into the inside of the fabric, but it should be all good. As you go, you can kind of pull the fabric apart and it sort of opens up that seam, so then all the fabric is sort of to one side. And as you go, you can just stop and then readjust your fabric, making sure the fold is running the same way. It gets trickier towards the bottom because the hole sort of gets smaller. Just like that. Then you can cut the thread on the side of the machine and then slowly pull that out. And then that is one of the sleeves fully completed, so then we can just turn it inside out. You can see the top stitches are running the same way. And you can see the bagginess and the volume start to take place in the sleeve at this point. And on the outside, you can see the same. This is one sleeve completed, and now what we are going to do is do the exact same thing for the other sleeve right here. And I'm going to do this off camera just because I have already showed you how to do it, and then we will move on to the next step. So once you have finished your sleeve, you've mirrored and done the exact same procedure with the other side of your outer shell. You should have two panels that look perfectly like this. You have one side which looks like this, and then the other side obviously looks like that. What you can do now, or you can do it later, is completely up to you. You're doing the exact procedure with the lining fabric. The reason you are is obviously because they are the exact same panel. One of them obviously goes in the inside of your sleeve, which is this, and then there's 4 sleeve panels that you need to do this procedure to. Now, I have already done one because I did it yesterday. I've got one more to do, and then that is all of our sleeves done. We can kind of piece them together and put them to the side, and then we'll move on to the back panel. I think we're going to do next, the back panel. I'm the most excited about the back panel because it's going to be so good. And yeah, let's do one more sleeve. I've pre-pinned it, so it is literally the same. Stitch, stitch, and then top stitch, easy stuff. So we just finished sewing the sleeves, and now what we are going to do is we're going to take you through the process of how to sew the back panel and how to put the yoke on. I'm not going to show you how to do this. Gio is going to show you how to do this, and he is going to sew it. This is his design, well, not his design, but we worked on it together. Gio designed this little system for you guys, so he is going to swap seats with me and show you how to do this. Aren't you, Gio? He didn't know I was going to tell him to do that.
We already explained it, like how to pin the back panels. But basically, you have the center back and the sides of the back. Basically, if you're a little bit overwhelmed with the pleats and how it's gonna all go together, just start by putting everything, the good side, the side that is gonna face like the outside, just put that side together. So you're sewing everything in the back side of the fabric.
Exactly. And then, yeah, you can basically just forget about this side and just do the center front and one of the sides. Sew it together, top stitch it, and then just do the exact same for the other side. And it will kind of make this, you know, start to make this shape, and then the inside pleat can fold it, iron it, press it, however you do it. And then you can sort of tack that pleat in place up here. I'm gonna film Gio sewing it, and then we will heat press it and it will all make sense. But right now, we've just thrown some pins all the way up the edge to do the first stitch.
So we just joined the center back with the side of the back here, and we're gonna do it exactly the same in the other side. So, like I said, it's gonna be the same thing, right sides together, facing each other, and just sewing along the edge of the back of the fabric. So now we're gonna make sure to iron this edge of that we just sewed, so it's cleaner, and then I'm gonna show you how we are start forming the pleats for the back. Now I just pressed the seams that we just did, and the next thing we're going to do is just start forming the pleats. So now we got this big panel here, center back, the sides of the back, and then the idea is that these pleats come together like this to form like a big middle plate.
So we're going to do this 2 different ways. The first way we're going to do it is the super simple way, and that is to form your pleat, and then you can put some pins in, and then we're just literally going to run a stitch that runs all the way through all of the layers across this top back panel. We're going to do this with a super small seam allowance, and then this just closes up the top. And then on the bottom, we're just going to show you a more technical way to close up this pleat, and that is to hide the stitching on the outside. And what we're going to do is we're basically just going to run a stitch between these 2 right here. So the stitch will run right in the middle of these sort of seams in here.
For the bottom of the pleat, like we said, we're gonna do a way of attaching the pleats that it's gonna be with a hidden seam. So basically, it sounds really technical, but it's simple, it's easy if you pay attention and do it with patience. You're gonna get it right. So basically, we're gonna do it here at the bottom. This part, the seams, the pleat comes together to form the middle pleat. So to start this, we're gonna turn our fabric wrong side out. We are gonna match both pleat seams together, like this. So you have the seam here, we're gonna match the seams. Once we match the seams, we're gonna place a pin. So then, you notice here we have a notch that will be marked in the pattern. So then you know this is where to stop sewing. So here we're gonna place a stitch right along the stitch we did to form the pleats, and it will be on the wrong side. So when we turn it upside down, the plates will be attached together. So to make it easier, we're gonna really make sure that the seam matches like this. Just put it on top, and then we pin it right at the notch so it doesn't move, and one at the top, like this. And then we sew just on top of this stitch. Let me show you. Okay, so you see the notch here. We have our pins that keep the fabric in place. Here we have the notch, our seam, and we're gonna place the needle just where the notch is and on top of the stitch we already have. So now that we got that, we're gonna stitch really slowly along the stitch we already have. So now you see the seam that starts here. We did it just on top of the seam of the pleats. I'm gonna show you the result of this. So this is the final result. We have our pleat completely stitched together.
Wow.
And then you notice how we have a very clean finish of the seam just opening up the pleat. That's one way to do it. We're gonna show you the other way to do it also. We were gonna show you another way to do it, like just top stitching at the top, but we kind of decided that I think we're gonna do both ends of the pleats like this, since it turned out so nice. It really gives you a clean result and really keeps the pleats really clean.
Yeah, so this bit right here, if you run a top stitch along all of the layers of the pleat, just literally a stitch on the top, it will close your pleat and it will still look really nice. But what we have done down here is we've actually like formed the fabric together with this hidden stitch on the inside. So it just has this really nice closure. And I think that just enhances the actual pleat itself. So this part right here, we're actually gonna do the exact same thing that we just did at the bottom, which is folding the fabric over, and you're basically connecting, as Gio showed you, the seams which you've already sewn together, and then you're running a stitch right on top of that seam. So then when you turn it the right way up, these seams, this one and the other side, this one, they are fully connected, and then it will close and finish your stitch right where that dart, right where that notch is. And then this should be all really clean, and then everything is sort of in place.
Yeah, it's gonna look awesome.
So I'm just gonna turn it round, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing as what Gio did. So you wanna make sure that the underneath fabric is out the way, and then it should reveal this stitch line. Same with the stitch line below. Again, just make sure every bit of fabric is out the way so you're not sewing through more layers than you need. And you should have this, oh, the light is, you might be in the light. So you should have this seam revealed underneath, and then obviously all your sort of underneath of the pleat pulled to the side, because if you accidentally do it and there's fabric underneath, then you're just gonna have to redo it. I'm gonna line these stitches up just by pulling them apart, and I'm gonna match them up. And just like Gio did, I'm gonna throw a pin in here. And I'm also gonna throw a pin where that notch is right here. This is the notch. As Gio said, it will be marked in the pattern. You're starting sewing up here. Maybe hit it with a back and forth stitch so that it lasts longer in the long run. And then we're stitching all the way along this seam. And then when you turn it outside in, it will connect up these two panels. So Gio and I just discussed this. We realized that you want your excess fabric to be folded towards the pleat. So the excess fabric and the stitch you're going to make is going to be on the left, following that stitch all the way down. You don't want to do it on the right with the fabric facing towards the actual side piece, because it will create more bulk when you fold it out the other way. So you want the excess seam allowance to be folded towards the pleat, and then we are going to stitch from that notch that I just showed you was marked all the way down, making sure that the seams line up perfectly. If the seams don't line up perfectly, then this is going to look a little bit wrong. So just keep checking underneath, make sure your seam allowance is to the pleat, and then we're going to run a stitch all the way down. Back and forth stitch for the structure, and then finish the stitch. So when you've placed your pins in, one final thing is that before you actually start stitching, you can actually check the other side where that pin is and it's lining up perfectly. So we know the stitch and the mark where we need to sew is on, if we fold it this way, it's on the right of this pin. And if you do stitch just a little bit to the left of this stitch line that we've already made, it's okay, because when we turn it around the right way, it won't make any difference. But try stay as close as you can to this stitch line. Now the extra seam allowance is pulled towards the pleat. You can take your pins out, and then we can kind of turn this the right way. Put your hand sort of underneath. Maybe if we turn this the back way, straighten out the. Okay, so you can see that I'm just placing some pins to hold it in place. You can see that this middle dart is now really taking shape. What we want to do now is we want to hit this with an actual iron, and then just straighten out and sort of match up and sort of perfect all these little imperfections up here. And then that is your middle pleat fully constructed. I think Gio's is a little bit cleaner than mine. And then we would implement the yoke, which we will show you. My bad stitching will be covered. But yeah, it's looking really nice.
It just needs ironing.
Just iron this, make sure the pleats are really perfect, and then we will get onto the yoke. Art the yoke whilst Sergio over there is ironing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stitch front sides together, so good sides together. I'm just going to stitch all the way along the bottom, and then I'm going to turn this inside out and then hit it with a top stitch all along the bottom when you've flipped it inside out. This is going to be placed right over the top of your back piece, and as I showed you, it will clean up any sort of like unneat areas. My unconventional ways, unlike Gio, I would recommend for you guys to, when you're doing the top stitch on the yoke, you're just pinching and rolling the seam and then throwing a pin into it, and you don't need to iron at that point. You can just pinch, roll, pin, and then hit it with a top stitch. But I guess you would probably iron it properly, wouldn't you? Definitely ironing makes it super clean. Just to finish and clean this top stitch off and make sure these two panels that we have stitched and top stitched are all together, we're going to run a very, very small seam allowance stitch all the way around this, and if you do it very close to the edge, it will actually be covered by the next stitch you do, so don't worry too much about it. So, as you can see now, I have just done a really close stitch. I don't know if you can even see that, but I've just done a really close stitch all the way around this panel right here. And then obviously my really nice top stitch, and it sort of merged these two sides together, which is super nice. Now we can place this, and you can see the shape will perfectly match up with the back panel. Gio is just finishing the pressing down here, and then we will attach both of the panels together, and then that will complete your whole back panel, and then we'll go onto the front panel. So yeah, let's do it. Oh, that looks nice.
Yeah, looks great.
can see that this is the yoke on top of the back panel, and it looks super, super, super nice. What you're doing now is you're just going to secure this in place by stitching a very close seam allowance all the way around the yoke, and this will secure the yoke into the back panel, and then your back panel's completed. Now would be the time that if you want to add any sort of labels, you would add them right now. So we're going to stitch that together, and then we'll move on to the front panel. Sound like a plan?
Yes, sir.
Just like that. I think that looks really, really nice. When it's on the back, it will really, really take shape with the whole volume of the Aero jacket. We are now on the front of the jacket, and I'm going to basically explain how it works, and then we will do it chronologically so you fully understand all of the parts of the process. Essentially, this right here is one that I've already sewn together. I did that yesterday outside of the cafe. But what that basically is the two front facings where you cut two together. You're basically stitching all the way along this, turning it inside out, and then we're top stitching. And then what I did was the same as the back yoke, just running a very small sort of stitch all the way around with a short seam allowance, which binds the two panels together. That will make this turn into this. And then what this is it basically perfectly fits on the front panel, and this acts as a paneling system which is decorative. This fabric right here is the cargo pocket, which will be sewn together first and then placed underneath this panel. This panel will act as a lid, and then we will probably add a little popper button and then pop that on and off for the pocket. So the symmetry will sort of work something similar to this. This panel will act the same. When it's top stitched, it will look super, super clean. These two panels right here are the shoulder panels. After you have implemented these two flap panel systems on both sides, we will then tackle the shoulders. These shoulders will be stitched on last when the cargo pockets have been sewn in also. And then we basically just stitch them front facing, and then fold them out and then hit that with a top stitch. But I'm going to show you one by one. I'm going to mainly show you how to do it one side, and then you can replicate it for the other. And then we should have some super, super nice front panels of the bomber jacket. This is the Aero Roughcut. The Aero Classic is way simpler, but the Aero Roughcut sort of takes you through this process of picking these cargo pockets. If you don't want to add the cargo pocket, feel free to choose one of the other modular pockets that we've provided in the pattern. Nothing in these patterns is mandatory. I'm sort of constructing this and showing you the way that we're constructing it, but you can do this another way if you feel comfortable enough to go for it. So yeah, I'm going to remove the one side. I'm going to tackle this right here, and this will be the base of operations. So cargo pockets, main panel / flap of the cargo pocket, shoulder, and then we'll put it all together. With the front facings, so remember the two front facings are facing each other, we're just going to stitch all the way along this bottom and all the way along, and then again fold it inside out, hit it with a press, and then stitch all the way around. This just closes these two panels together with a perfect top stitch on the bottom. So, we're now going to design our cargo pockets. I've already stitched one completely together, mainly just to show you an example. The outside is going to look a little bit like this, and then obviously these side gussets are going to sort of cinch in, and then this is going to be your main cargo pocket for the bottom. You should have two of these at the end of this process, and they're basically going to sit just under this panel. I'd say something very similar to that. And then this would be right on top, just like that. And that looks super, super nice. That's how it's gonna sit, that's how it's gonna look. Obviously, we're gonna show you how to pin the cargo pocket down to the main panel anyway. But for now, let's move all this to the side, and then we'll focus on how to construct this side gusset. pocket. Now, I don't know whether it's already out or not. It probably isn't right this second, but we do have a pocket tutorial, like a little system for creating different types of pockets, and there's a full video on that in my YouTube channel, along with a little pattern that is like £5. You can purchase that. It takes you through the full process of how to sew side gusset pockets, dart pockets, or just like the iron-on kind of patch pocket that you'd see on the back of a pair of jeans. Now, I'm gonna take you through the process. You have a side gusset out of the main fabric, you have the main cargo panel out of the main fabric, and you have the exact same out of this pocket-lined fabric. Gio, when he went fabric shopping, he found this pocketing fabric, which is this super nice sort of canvasy, I don't even know what you'd call this, but it's super, super, super nice. Now this is going to be constructed the exact same way as the outer shell fabric, but the difference is this is going to be on the inside. You can kind of see it in this one we've already done here. So the inside looks super, super clean, and again it's seamless as well as the outside. And this is just going to be a bit more comfortable on your hands, and it's not going to reveal any of the annoying sort of frayed edges on the inside of the pocket. So how are we going to do this? Basically, the way we're going to do this is with the cargo pocket, you know that the length is what you want on the width and the sort of side, and then the smaller sort of side is the top of your pocket. What we're going to do with the front facings is we're just going to stitch all the way around this, go all the way around the bottom, and then all the way back up. Your side gusset should be a tiny bit longer than what you need, but we just trim it right after, and then we go from there. So all you're doing right now, you can hang a little bit of the side gusset over the top. We're just going to stitch with front facings the side gusset all the way around, but we're not going to stitch it on the top here. And we're going to leave this bit raw and then cut off the excess. I'll show you what to do after. And I kind of just forgot to say, but you're doing the exact same process with the inside lining too. So stitching the side gusset front facing all the way around, but not on the top. You should have something that looks a little bit like what I'm going to show you in a second. So as I mentioned, you can kind of just hang a little bit of fabric on the side gusset over the top of the pocket. We can trim that after. And I'm not actually going to use pins because I know the seam allowance is going to be 1/4, and we can kind of just hold it in place and stitch along. When you get towards the bottom, we're just going to stop right at this corner point, and then we're going to basically make sure the needle is down in the fabric. We lift the foot up and then we can switch direction. Let me show you. Making sure the needle is in, and then we can lift the foot up, and then we can sort of rotate this 90 degrees, and then we can push all the fabric under the foot so it's going this direction. We can lower the foot again, and you can make sure that you're stitching down. You can follow all the way along this line. Again, needle in the fabric, follow this all the way around. So now what we can do is we can basically just turn this over and cut the excess side gusset. Now you should have something that looks a little bit like this, where it should look the exact same. And what you can do is you can kind of flip these corners out and start to see that it makes this shape of a cargo pocket. We're going to do the exact same for the lining, and then we'll show you what to do afterwards. Now you should have two sort of versions of the cargo pocket with the lining and the outer shell, and it should look something very, very, very similar to this. Now you can trim the top of the side gusset off the lining too, and these are basically just exact replicas of the same thing. The way we're going to stitch this now is we're going to do the front facings, and we're going to stitch the top of both of them together. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that the fabric isn't bunching, and you want to match this seam with the back seam and the same with the side ones. You can see that they will perfectly match up because they are the exact same pattern pieces. Now what we want to do is we just want to use our thumb to get inside this seam, and the same with underneath, and we're just going to flatten them seams like you can see there. And the reason we're doing this, we're flattening them seams down, is so when we stitch over this, it just doesn't create bulk and sort of bunching up of loads of bits of fabric. Now you can get a pin, and you can throw a pin in here somehow, so that stays in place just like that. And we're going to do the same with the other side over here. Get your thumb in the seam, open it up, then do the exact same with the underneath of the main panel, match them up, and then again we can throw a little pin inside this just to make sure it's in place. And then we're going to run a 1/4 seam allowance stitch all along this. Now don't worry if your lining fabric is slightly wider than your main fabric, we can trim this afterwards. Now what we can do is we can basically just trim the excess threads, and then we can take these pins out. Once the pins are out, you can now see that if you flip this over and turn it in on itself, you can see that we have just created the hem of the top of the pocket. Now, instead of ironing this right now because I'm lazy, I am just going to throw a few pins along the top of this hem. You don't need many, just enough to hold it in place. I'd say that is about a perfect amount. And then we're going to stitch along just the top of this with a smaller seam allowance, and then afterwards we're going to hit it with another stitch just below to clean it up. And this just secures the pocket bag shape, and it means that the top of the hem of the pocket stays consistent and doesn't move around at all. So once we've done that first stitch very close along the top, you can see that it's now binded both the fabrics together really nicely, and this top of the pocket is looking good. Just to secure this one last little bit, I'm just going to run another stitch along this, just mainly for decorative reasons. You can kind of see it there, it looks really, really nice. I'm just going to do the same thing. Now what we can do is we can actually turn the inside pocket normal way, so you can see the loose edges are showing, and then we can just put it inside the outer shell of the pocket. And then you can see as we start going round, there is a little bit more excess of the lining than there is of the outer sort of side gusset, and we can trim all this excess off. We basically just want to be matching this all the way round and making sure it sort of matches up perfectly. And then what I like to do is I'm just going to throw a few pins just to match all of these so it's in place, and then you can just trim off the excess. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to fold 1/2 inch with the lining and the outer shell together, and then just you can press that, and this is going to basically create the part of the side gusset which you then stitch to the garment. And then obviously we can fold this over a later sort of time and then tack that down if we want to. I chose not to top stitch this area of the pocket just because I think it makes it look super nice when there's a bit more volume, especially as we're making a rough cut aero jacket. I think it works really nice that it sort of like, you know, sits and it's not all top stitched. So yeah, let's pin all the way around this, and then we will cut the excess of the lining off, and then we will fold so it's ready for construction on the main garment. So there is the finished cargo pocket. Now there is one more step actually, and that is to just fold over this edge, and then we're going to use pins because we don't have a full really good iron here, but we're just going to fold over 1/2 inch, and then just you can either iron that with a press, or in our case, you know, we can add a little pin to secure that perfectly in place, and then just work your way around. But what's best, because this is going to be sewn down from the outside, is I'd probably recommend you know, lining it up from the outside and then pinning from the outside, because then when you line it up with your fabric, you can kind of just take the pin out and then re-put it back in and sort of, you know, pin it to the main front panel of your jacket. So fold and pin from the outside, I would recommend. But you know, if you have a press and you're using something like canvas, hit this with a press. It's going to make a super big difference.
So what we are doing here is basically doing the placement for the front pockets that we're doing. We're doing the cargo pockets for the rough cut edition. You see Jack here placed the pocket here. We did it in an angled way. In the pattern, it is just straightforward, but feel free to do it however you like. For us, we thought that doing this kind of angle with the pocket will be much more comfortable for putting your hand in the pocket, and it will, I mean, for us it looks really good this way. And then we're gonna add a welted pocket following the same angle of the pocket, right here on the chest. So feel free to do whatever you want with your version of the jacket. If you want to do the pockets in another angle, it's okay. However you want to do it, it's okay. At the end of the day, it's your jacket and you can basically design it however you like.
Also, just as a quick jumping in, basically there is a welted pocket tutorial on our YouTube channel already, so you can go on that and you can watch the welted pocket. I'm actually going to sew the welted pocket, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to sandwich the welted pocket bag in between these two pieces of fabric. So I probably should have done it a little bit earlier. So I'm going to unpin what I've stitched just all around this edge, obviously not the bottom bit, and then I'm going to make this zip welted pocket whilst Gio is pinning the pocket down and the placement. So now you're seeing that it's starting to take a little bit more place, and it's sort of, you know, looking a bit more like a jacket, and you can really understand the panels. We're going to add the 2 shoulder panels after, but for now, Gio's on the pocket placement and I'm on the welted pocket. If you want to do a welted pocket, go and follow the tutorial on YouTube. Hell yeah. Gio is pressing the welted pocket that I just did, and I am going to be sewing all around the edge that I've just pinned, and Gio has pinned the other one. All the way around the edge I'm going to sew just to put this pocket in place, and the same with the other side. And these are lined up perfectly for us now. As Gio said, you can do straight ones, or you can choose to do, you know, diagonal ones. But yeah, I'm going to sew them in place. It's just a back and forth stitch on the top, as you can see there, and then follow it all the way around, and then that should sew your pocket perfectly in place. Gio and I smashed through that. We have just completed this separate little zip welt pocket in here. Again, if you're interested in knowing how to do that, then there is a full tutorial on my YouTube. We also pinned and stitched the pockets in place. I just added a little bar tack at the top of each one, just so it holds the top down, as you can see. And then what I did on the right wearer's side, I basically just added the panel that goes over as a flap. And then I'm just going to do the same sort of thing, but show you on this side. You match it up perfectly, as you can see right there. And then we're just stitching all the way around with that very small seam allowance again. And then after that, we're going to grab a shoulder. And then the shoulder is super easy. You would basically just grab it so it sits exactly like this. And then it's just stitch this together 1/4 seam allowance, and then hit it with a top stitch. And then that right there is your whole front panel. Same with this side. You want to get your shoulder. These are the wrong side facings, but I'm showing you anyway. And then there, you have your 2 front panels. I'm really happy. Are you happy with this?
Yeah.
It looks so good.
Yeah.
So with the top part of the front of the jacket, you want to make sure that you've got this correct. This right here follows up and is the collar, and it kind of goes over, and this is kind of like the back of the jacket, matches with the back panel. And this right here obviously is your armhole. An easy sort of misconception is that you accidentally sew it the wrong way and it ends up something like that. So you really want to make sure that you are stitching the correct way. Also right there, I don't know if you can see, but when you are pinning this shoulder front facing together, don't be worried if the point on the top sort of overrides, and it does kind of the same at the bottom. When you stitch this 1/4 seam allowance down, then it will perfectly make itself sort of match up, and then you can trim this tiny little triangle the same with up here afterwards, and then top stitch it down. Right, so essentially we're going to show you how to do the sleeve patch pocket, and this has a little sort of external pocket which you can put your hand in, and then also it has an interior pocket with the zip where you can sort of pull it in. It's connected to 2 pieces of fabric there. We have actually changed these panel pieces, so this one right here is the sleeve small patch pocket. We've literally halved it in size. Your pattern will be the exact same. The dimensions, we've written them down, and we're going to change it when we get back before the pattern releases. And the same with the sleeve zipper pocket. So these are the only 2 panels and the only 2 bits of fabric you're going to need. However, what we have done is we have cut one out of the outer shell fabric, and we have also cut one out of the inner lining fabric for the pockets. This is just to kind of clean up the inside, you know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this piece right here. We're going to get it to the point where we want it, and then we'll go onto the other sort of iron-on patch pocket, you know. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm just basically going to get this pocket right here. And what you can do is you can basically run the tiniest seam allowance stitch all the way around just to close the lining. There's 2 bits of fabric here, the lining to the outer shell. I'm going to do that now just so then I can basically fold and do everything when it's together. So right now you're looking at this zipper. This zipper should be the exact length of your patch, your sort of main panel where the zip integrates in. The way we're going to put this into the pocket is we're basically just going to flip this zipper over, and we're basically going to stitch all the way up here with a close zipper foot, all the way up there, and then we're going to pull the zipper through, cut in the middle, and then it should flip the zip round the other way. I'm going to kind of show you. I'm going to pull my stitch over to the side, so my needle is on one side of my presser foot, and I'm going to stitch all the way up this zip until I get to the point where I need to move the zipper head just further on. Then you can carry on that stitch, cut the thread, and then we're basically going to do the exact same thing down the other side. So, what you want is your sleeve pocket looking something a little bit like this. If it gets too far down, you can pull the zip puller out the way and just finish that stitch off. Remember to do this with a zipper foot. If it helps, you can cut the fabric before and then just stitch the front facings to the tape of the zip and the other side. And then when you turn it inside out and you turn the zipper the right way, you can then hit a top stitch along this top. But I'm just going to quickly finish it, which looks something like this. And then I am going to top stitch, move the needle to the middle point again, and just top stitch all the way down. The zipper head out the way. And then it should look something like that, and we're just going to do the exact same thing with the other side. So then you should have a sort of piece of fabric that looks something like this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fold a 1/2 inch on every side, and because you've got the little tape at the bottom of the zipper, you can do the same with the bottom and it should look something a little bit like that. Obviously a little bit cleaner, and you can use an iron. And then the little sort of patch pocket would go perfectly in the middle. And I've already hemmed the top of this patch pocket, so now I'm just going to add a few pins and stitch this down before I do all of the folds. And obviously the closer you put it to the zip, the more space you'll have to fold. So I think that looks about perfect for me. So the camera died and it also ran out of storage, so we're back. And pretty much what we've just done with this sleeve pocket right here is, as you can see, this side is not folded, and I literally just threw 2 pins in here and folded this little side down, because we basically just want the whole thing to sort of merge naturally into the sleeve of the jacket. I also added this little sort of coin pocket. I hemmed the top and then did the same thing where I just top stitched all the way around that fold. Very straightforward. What we're gonna do now is we're pretty much just I'm gonna fold the rest of the pocket, and then I'm gonna hem the top of this pocket just up there with a stitch before we put it onto the sleeve. And that is basically just gonna mean that when we undo the zipper, this top bit will be free, so we can pull it open just like this, and then the rest of it will top stitch all the way down, but just not this top piece up here. It's very straightforward. We're just doing the exact same procedure. You should be able to double fold this over, and then it will just clean up that hem, and then we can run a stitch all the way through that right there, and then obviously clean one side, and then top stitch the outer shell, and then obviously fold, pin, iron, do all that good stuff, and then we're going to stitch this onto the sleeve of the jacket. Let's go. So I'm just going to pin all the way around this and then fold this bottom up, which Gio just ironed. Naturally fold that under, and then we're going to follow that all the way around. And again, we're not stitching this top piece right here, just so when we open the zipper, it kind of opens the whole pocket. So the placement of this pocket can be placed obviously anywhere, but you want to make sure that it's on the sort of highest part of the rise of the sleeve cap. And this is mainly because then it will sit just on your bicep, on top of your bicep. If you do it on the accidental other side, then obviously your pocket's going to be underneath your arm. So you want to make sure it's at the highest point of the sleeve cap, just parallel with the top of the sleeve cap there. So we always know that it has the right placement, but within the pattern, it does have markings, so you can add some pins earlier on. However, we're just kind of winging it because we're in Italy. As I said, not stitching the top piece of the bigger side. We are going to stitch, just back and forth stitch this top bit in, just because that obviously is going to keep the zip in place. But this pocket's just going to open nicely like that, which is what we want. And I did the double fold just to hem the top of that too. So yeah, I'm going to stitch all the way around in like a U sort of shape. And then yeah, that'll be the sleeve pocket finish. As you can see, we just finished the sleeve pocket and I think it looks amazing. Look at that, top quality. So now we have done the sleeve pocket, I'm actually just going to stitch this sleeve back up, and then we'll move directly onto the zip covers of the front. So the way we're going to do them, I'm just going to quickly tell you now, and then we will fully explain it afterwards. So we have some insulation at the bottom, and then we have 2 front facings. So one of the good sort of shell fabric facing up, and then the next one facing down. When we stitch around this and then turn it inside out from these 2 panels, it will mean this insulation is embedded on the inside and sandwiched right in the middle of these 2. So then we hit it with a top stitch and then we're finished. So yeah, let me just sew the arm together and we'll get back to the zip cover. So we're now going to tackle the zip covers and the collar. Let me just break down and explain each one and how we're going to sew them and how it's going to work. I'll start with the one that I basically just already explained. This right here, we're going to stitch along all around and then get to there, back and forth stitch. And the way we're going to stitch it is with the 2 bits of outer shell front facing, and then below that, so on the bottom we have more of the insulation, which is the lining fabric with the 6 or 4 ounce wadding. I would probably use like 4 ounce or try use some really light sort of insulation for this, because it is going to be your zip cover that is going to go over the jacket zip. So this is the outside one. And then once we sew that, we turn that inside out, top stitch it, and it will look super, super nice. The next one is the actual inside zip cover. So this one we're going to quilt, but we need to stitch it first together. So again, it would be the same kind of thing where we want to have the top fabric together just like this and the front facings. This one is a fold, so we don't actually need to stitch all the way around. We're just going to stitch across this and across this. And then we can turn it inside out. We can close this long edge once it's inside out, and then we hit maybe a little bit of quilting or some lines up and down, and this will basically just sandwich them both together and kind of take a little bit of the volume out of the inside zip cover. This just functions so, you know, when you zip it up and down, it's on the inside. Anyway, they're the two zip covers. The last one, which I'm going to talk to you about, is the insulated collar. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we have chose to do the insulated collar. You can do the hood with the fishtail zipper. The Aero Classic, the more basic version of this pattern, if you buy the pattern, you get the Aero Classic and the Aero Roughcut. But the Aero Classic will have a tutorial by my friend Max. He sews loads of clothes together and he's an amazing designer from my local town. But for now, we're just going to show you how to do the insulated collar, and if you're interested in the hood, then go and watch the classic video. The way we're going to do this is exactly the same as what I just showed you. Both front facings of the inside of the fabrics, and then underneath we have the lining again. I actually have 2 layers of insulation here, and that is just because this collar is going to be super thick and it will be super insulated. So yeah, they're all the 3 pieces that we're going to sew right now. I'm going to show you the video of us sewing them. Again, with the collar, the same, inside out, turn it inside out, top stitch around, and we're leaving this raw edge on the bottom because we're going to stitch this in. But I'm going to show you me stitching them, and you can take it one by one. They're pretty much all the same technique, so I thought we'd smash them out all together. With denim, I always pinch and roll, and what I do, as weird as it is I lick my fingers, so I have the grip on the fabric, but because we're working with waterproof fabric, this kind of like waxed fabric, it just makes it slip even more. So putting these pins in is actually kind of tricky, to be fair, when you're trying to do the top stitch. You can iron this, but I'm just doing this with the pins. But just make sure that your shapes are very, you know, natural to what we made the pattern for you, because you want it to all match up. This is gonna be so nice. So if you've got something looking a little bit like this, where you know you've sort of turned the collar inside out, then you can just get your pin and sort of pull little bits out. But I'm going to do quite a wide sort of stitch along this insulated collar, like a wide top stitch. It'll probably be the width of the sewing foot, and that is because, as you can see, when it's insulated, it looks super nice. It creates this sort of round look to it. So with this one right here, the inside zip cover, I'm gonna do a top stitch all the way down and round, and I'm gonna close this too. I'm also gonna run a few sort of strips of stitches down, because we want this one to be like really sort of like malleable. When the quilting is loose, then obviously it becomes quite thick. So when you run stitches through it, it sort of just like compresses it all together and makes it a little bit more sort of malleable and movable. But you'll see what I do. I'm pretty much just gonna do a few stitches. This is gonna be the inside zip cover. So the thicker one is the outside one, the thinner one is the inside one. And I'm just using the side of the sewing foot as a reference back and forth, up and down, so I can make these really clean stitches all the way down this zip cover. This is super nice. You can see what I mean about it being more malleable when the sort of insulation has been stitched down. You You can see I did the lines all across and it is looking proper nice. This is gonna be super, super clean. You can also just like cut all the excess of annoying insulation that naturally gets pushed out when you're sort of like pushing the fabric down, you know, naturally you'll have some excess. So you can just trim this off. And then at that point, the collar, the inner zip cover and the outer zip cover finished. And when we get to more of the construction of the jacket, which we're sort of heading towards now, I will show you how to implement them in the right sort of place. But I'm gonna trim this and then I'm gonna just have a quick second to think about what the next stage is. So yeah. So the next step is to do all the facings on the inner lining. So parts of the inner lining, especially like the center front, they need a little bit more structure than just having like really thin polyester. So we've basically added these facings. It also helps with things like the zipper, not getting caught on the inside fabric if it's sort of bunched up and stuff like that. And it just kind of looks aesthetically nice anyway. So what you can see is I've stitched one of these earlier, and it's basically a center facing that sort of goes round the collar as well. So as you can see, it sort of travels round the collar. The way you're gonna put this into place is, here's one I made earlier, and this is one that I still need to do. You can see that I've basically got this center front facing and I have pinned it all the way down and it matches up with that curve. So your inner lining will have a curved bit, very, very similar, pretty much the same as this. And your center front facing will basically have the matching curve. So what you're doing is you're sewing this a 1/4 seam allowance all the way down to the bottom. And then once you've done that, you're turning it outside in and then hitting it with a top stitch with the fold underneath the outer fabric. So it looks like it's sewn down super nicely. Kind of like that. Once you've done that, that is your center front sewn into your lining, and you're going to do that both sides. I already done that earlier. I did it yesterday whilst we were sat outside that cafe, but I'm going to do the other one. And then exactly the same, you've got your back panel. I've done the exact same. You should have your top back neck facing. You just want to pin that in the exact same with the 1/4 seam allowance running all the way over, and then hit it with a top stitch once that's done. I haven't done this yet, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to do the back one too. And then one other thing is that I got this ready already, but you're probably going to have to do this. There is another panel which is called the inner lining sort of flat pocket. I basically cut one out of my main fabric and then one out of my pocketing fabric. The same way we did the hem for the cargo pocket earlier, you're just going to sew them front facing and then turn them inside out, top stitch, and then just hit this one with a little fold, and then you can add pins to help your fold if you're using polyester and it's harder to iron. So just like that, you can place this one wherever you want on the inside, but there is markings again on the pattern. So I'm going to run a little top stitch all the way around this, and the top is already hemmed, so then that makes your inside lining pocket. So Gio is just currently top stitching and sewing together the front facing of the lining. He's also stitching in the, the back facing, and we also pinned the pocket onto the inner lining, which he's going to sew. Whilst he's doing that, I'm actually going to start on constructing the outer shell of the jacket. So we've got our back piece. So we've got this back piece right here, and then I'm going to grab the front pieces, which are currently on the floor, and I'm going to put them front facing down against the back. So then we can sort of stitch and pin all of the side seam, and we can pin and stitch the shoulders and do the same for the other side. And this will connect basically our two front panels with the back panel of our outer shell. We're going to have to do the same for the lining too, but this is where we're going to work together, because you guys already, if you're at this point, you can kind of understand how to put this together. We're still obviously going to show you every step, but for speed's sake, and obviously we're in the Necchi studio at the moment, the HQ. So for speed's sake and just getting this done, because we fly back tomorrow, Gio is on the lining. He's just doing everything that I just explained to you to do, stitching the facings together. He's doing the back one at the moment. And then I'm just gonna get the front panels like this. And you see that is one of the front panels. I'm just gonna place it down and do it so, oh, wrong side. I'm just gonna place it down and connect the side seam with the fronts facing on the inside. And then pin the shoulders, pin the side seam. So just to explain what I just did, you can see on the inside there is the front facing of the front and the front facing of the back. Just with the fronts, obviously good sides together, I've pinned across the side seam to match up, and I've pinned across the top shoulder, and I've done the same for the other side. Gio is just finishing this pocket, stitching this pocket on the lining, and then I'm gonna swap with Gio. He's gonna start stitching this together. What he's gonna do is he's gonna stitch all the way up the side seam, the shoulder, the other shoulder, and the side seam, and then hit it with a top stitch after. And then whilst he's doing that, stitching this, I'm actually going to start pinning the lining together so it makes sense, so we can swap around and keep the cycle going. And then maybe I'll jump in and sew. So right now you can see we're looking at the front panel, and I'm just sort of analysing where I want this front zip cover to go. And I think I want it right there. Although it does overlap the zip a little bit, one, I kind of don't mind that because I might add a clasp right here, and two, I don't want to do it the other way because then it covers the Necchi logo. So I think I'm going to top stitch the outside zip cover to the Necchi side, so then it folds over the zip side, just like this. You can see if I stitch it to the other side, it will fold nicely over the zipper welt pocket. What do you think, Gio? You think?
I like it.
Yeah, because it kind of like, it will hang, the zip sort of puller will hang, and it might look really nice.
So Jack is pinning the outer shell for getting it ready for the top stitch. And
I wouldn't normally pin my top stitches, it's mainly just because we're on a bit of a time crunch, so we're trying to like delegate tasks.
yeah, so I'm doing the lining and I'm putting the sleeves in the lining. So the way to do this is just the lining inside out, you know, with the wrong side facing out, and the sleeve, the right side facing outwards. And what you want to do is basically, there's notches in the pattern that you will have to match, and also this seam matches with the side seam. So that is a reference point that you can have and start sewing your sleeve in. Just make sure when you're sewing the sleeve that this stitching here should be in the back side of the jacket. So the front is clean, and obviously this seam just goes on the back. So this side will be stitched in the back and this side here on the front.
And just to let you know, you don't really need to pin your sleeves in, because as you kind of work around the garment, as you can see Gio doing right here, it kind of, hold on, let me get round. As you work your way around the garment, it kind of naturally sort of fits in the right place it needs to. And you guys remember the 1/4 seam allowance like Gio's doing right here, and it will all be perfect. Just work your way around. Remember that small panel on the sleeve, like the small sleeve panel, that needs to go on the back of the garment, and mainly because it's just part of the design detail, you know. If you do mess it up, at least you've messed it up in the lining and not the outside of the jacket. So make sure you get that right going forward. So I am top stitching all of these seams, like the shoulder and the side seam, which we just sewn together. And basically when you're top stitching, you want to make sure that the seam allowance and that extra sort of like, you know, loose fabric, it goes towards the back, so then your fold faces towards the front panels. And to make it easier, once you get to the end of one of your top stitches, if you come around here, Gio, and sort of point in, you can see. Once you get to the end of one of your top stitches, you can kind of just place the other one in sort of the position and then just keep the stitching going. And then you can cut that bit of thread in the middle there after you've top stitched the whole sort of way around. And yeah, I've stupidly put the pins in the wrong way, but oh well. So we've got these right here. And what these are the shoulder straps. So they're basically attached to the top of the sleeve and then they fold over and then they're buttoned up the top. So this would fit sewn into around this area of the sleeve when we input the sleeve next, and then they're going to fold over, and then we will input buttons at a later date which perfectly match right there. These are optional, you don't necessarily need to add them, but I'm going to add them. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to stitch, if you can face, we're going to stitch all the way around, and then we're going to turn inside out through this little gap that we've left up the top. So stitch all the way around this curve and then leave this gap open, so then we're able to turn inside out. And then we can just close up that edge, and then it gets basically sewn and stitched into the top of your sleeve. So just when you're putting in your sleeve, you're just adding this to the inside, sandwiching it between the sleeve and your main shell. This is the hardest and most annoying bit, is turning it inside out. I'm actually going to pass this to Gio to do because he loves turning things inside out while sewing. So we've just turned these inside out. Gio is actually pressing them over there. And then what I am going to do in the meantime is I'm just going to do the exact same thing that Gio did, and that is input the sleeves into the garment itself. Again, you want to turn the garment, the main sort of shell, inside out, and then you want the sleeves to be the right. And then you basically just match up that bottom seam and make sure that that small sleeve panel is on the back of the construction. And then you basically turn it right sides out, give the outside a top stitch, which you didn't necessarily need to do with the lining. And then, yeah, we have sleeves. But remember, you're inputting this piece right here in the top, and it's basically just going to sit there in the middle, sandwiched right in between the, you know, the sleeve and the body parts, and then it then folds over, and then we'll top stitch it down into place. So yeah, you can watch me do that. So we've got to the point where I haven't actually sewn the sleeves in, but we've top stitched these two panel pieces right here. Let me just describe what's sort of next and left for us to do. We have the input of the sleeves with the attachment of the shoulder strap. And then we have to basically construct the sleeves, and then we will put the zip covers on the front and the lining. I will show you how to do all of the ribbing with Gio. We'll show you how to attach the ribbing to the bottom facing, and then basically sew that to the bottom of the garment, and then attach it at the same time to the lining, to the wrists, and then I'll show you how to attach your collar at the end. We've got a little bit of a way to go, but me and Gio think we can smash it out tonight. We have to go for dinner now with Emanuela and Andrea, and we will basically come back to this tonight. We're going to do it in the apartment, so we're in the Necchi HQ at the moment, as you know, but we will go to the apartment and smash this out. So yeah, we're going to go for dinner, chill out, and then we're going to touch bases either tonight or potentially we'll wake up early and do it tomorrow morning before our flight home. So that's kind of up in the air, but we'll figure it out. Let's go. Hello everybody. So we have changed location and we are now in Emanuela's house, her old sewing studio. She's the lady who works for Necchi, and she invited us out, and she's got a lovely place that she's letting us stay for a few days. So we're very nearly done with the process of this jacket. There is a few things we need to do, which is adding the, the collar to the main sort of shell, adding the sleeves, inputting the ribbing, doing the zip and the zip covers. And in the next few hours, me and Gio behind the camera, we want to complete the jacket, and we want you guys to complete it too. So we're going to take you through all the steps left and make sure that you know exactly how to finish this jacket. I have done previous videos of jackets with ribbing, but never a bomber jacket. So I'm going to take you through all the steps. Let's carry on the tutorial. How did that start recording?
I don't know.
Well, the camera's recording. So basically, I am trying on the jacket so Gio can pin the shoulder straps in place in the right sort of area. This is going to look very, very, very cool. Yeah, nice. I think it's a good placement. When the collar is on, then the collar will probably just go to around that sort of area, maybe a little bit further. Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
I'm going to stitch it down just to keep it in place, and then I will put the sleeves on the same way Gio did for the lining. So it's literally just matching up, but I'm just going to reiterate what Gio said earlier. So we want to make sure that when we're putting on the sleeves, the back of the sleeves have the small panel and the front of the sleeve doesn't. Also, remember we put the sleeve pocket basically in line with the highest point of the sleeve cap, and that is really important because obviously when we wear this just like this, we want it all to fall onto the back. It's very hard to see, but hopefully you understand. So, Mr. Sergio behind the camera and myself went to find a drink of water, and we accidentally ended up in a Scottish pub. So I had a beer, Gio was more responsible and had a Coca-Cola. So we just top stitched the arms down before we left, and then now we're back and it's around 12:30. So we're going to put the collar on and we're going to finish this. We've just got to stay focused and do this tutorial, so sorry if you're watching this and we're a bit unprepared, but this is going well so far. So we've just got to finish it and put the collar on. So what we're going to do now, as you can see on the table, is we have this whole raw edge here for the collar. So what we've got to do is we're going to pin this collar all the way along to the very end, and that is what we're going to do. One thing that you can do is you can already make a pre-made fold. That 1/4 inch fold, you can just throw a pin in there just to keep that in place, and you can do the same with the other side. The reason we're pinning this now is because when it gets to putting the zip in, it will naturally fold in, so you don't need to do anything. The reason we're doing this fold here with the pin is just so it's the perfect length now for your collar all the way along, and also when we get to doing the zip, it's already sort of naturally flowing in that fold, so then when we go to input the zip, it'll be super easy. So yeah, now we're going to get the collar. It's the same both sides, so it doesn't matter which side you use, and we're just going to stitch all the way along right to the end. So you can see that we just made that fold here on the center front, and then we just put the pin in, and now we've run pins all the way along the collar edge, and then we're just going to stitch this collar down to the top of the neckline on the outside fabric, you know, the shell fabric. Going to run a stitch along, make sure that that fold is folded and it's like nice and flush on the edge of the collar, and then we're going to run a stitch all the way along. This is what it's looking like with the collar, which is so nice. We just stitched all along, and as you can see, that fold still stays consistent and it's super flush up to that point when you stitch it all along. The insulated collar is super nice, and this is coming together very nicely. Although I'm tired, Gio's not as tired as me, but I'm f***ing tired.
Hello people, so now we are doing the ribbing, the waistband for the jacket, and the first step is get your ribbing. You can see we got it here, cotton ribbing, and then we want to take our flap pieces here. It's the bottom center flap.
It's basically the pattern piece that connects to the ribbing.
These pieces here will connect with the ends of our ribbing, and we want to take the good side of our ribbing and the good side of our flap and just put it together like this, and just stitch 1/4 inch right here, and then top stitch it to keep it in place. So we're gonna do that.
And you're going to do the same thing for both sides. So good sides together with the bottom center like flap kind of fold, and the ribbing, good sides together, and then stitch it.
Jack explains very well, but me, I don't explain very well.
I think you explained it well, but I think we're both tired, so we might need to say it twice.
I just do the patterns, man.
No, now you're a tutorial man.
Tutorial man. So now I already stitched 1/4 inch here at the end of the ribbing with the bottom flap, and now we can Just put the seam aside, facing the bottom flap like this, and choose top stitch.
We're getting delirious at this point. Basically, we're now going to attach the ribbing that Sergio just stitched together. So basically what you're going to do, you can see that one side of this ribbing, obviously we have the top stitch that we've just made, just right here. And we're basically going to find the front good side of our fabric, basically where you've sewn your cargo pocket. And we're going to grab our ribbing and we're just going to flip it over so the good sides are facing. Here I'm going to throw like 2 or 3 pins, nothing too much, just like 2 or 3 sort of pins in this place to keep it, you know, keep it secure. I'd say one like this, one probably like this, and then one just on the ribbing to hold it in place. And then that's all you need. Now we can go straight to the other side of the jacket, to the same spot, but just on the other flipped side. And we're going to do the exact same thing with the other side of the ribbing. So you can throw like 3 pins in here, and it just holds it in place. You can add as many as you need to feel comfortable that it's not going to move from this point. Just like that. And now what we're going to do is we can sort of grab both sides that we just pinned, and then we can stretch out that ribbing and sort of gauge the middle point, which I've got it here, is around that area. And then we can sort of pin that middle point in to the ribbing. Remember, you might have quite a lot of layers if you're doing that back pleat. I'm going to sew this, we're going to pin this in. So just make sure there's like 3 or so pins. And then again, we're going to stretch the ribbing, find that middle point again, and kind of connect it up. Throw some pins. Now you don't need to pin too much because as we pull this through the sewing machine, it will actually account for the bunching because of the elastic. Obviously you can see there, if I leave it, it looks like there's more fabric of the outer shell fabric than the ribbing, but it kind of just levels itself out, which is super, super nice. So I'm going to throw this through the machine, but before I do, I'm just going to do one more little sort of pin mark right on this side seam. There might be better ways for you to do this, but I just use my teeth because it's easy. Throw a pin in there, and then this is now ready to stitch. I can sort of throw this through and we'll get a nice even stitch all the way along. And we can just kind of pull that, and then you can see all of the edges then start to match up. So let's stitch through this, and then we're going to do the exact same thing for the lining. So from the other sort of side of the ribbing, you can see there, we'll just do the exact same thing. So where you've kind of placed these pin checkpoints like here, you can kind of just pull on them. Then you can slowly see that the fabric and the ribbing sort of match. And then you can just pull the one out that you got to and just make your way to the next. Right, so if you can see right here, this is what the bomber jacket is kind of looking like at the moment. You have all of these different, you know, cinched areas. And then on the other side, it's all this raw edge still. What we're going to do is we are just going to grab the reflected side of what is the lining and the bottom of the lining. This is the hem, the bottom raw edge of the lining. You can see if I turn it the other way, it all kind of makes sense. You've got all the sleeves and everything, but we're looking at the bottom of that sort of center facing, and we're just going to match that bottom of the center facing up with the, you know, the other side of the ribbing. And again, your front faces are together, the front facing of your lining and the front facing of your ribbing. And you're just doing the exact same procedure as what we did just a second ago. And we're actually just going to throw a few pins in place just to secure this, and then we'll do the same on the other side. And then you're just repeating this procedure where you're stitching all the way along, and then this is going to create a seamless ribbing in the bottom. And the reason we need to do it this way, where we basically need to be attaching the lining and the outer shell to both the two sides of the ribbing is because we need the zipper to run through that bottom little like rectangle facing that we showed you, this facing here. The zip needs to run through the middle of this, so we need to attach both sides, so you know the jacket kind of goes like this and then the zip's placed and sandwiched in the middle. Anyway, let's move to the other side. You can kind of just move all the fabric around. This is where we start getting into the territory of the jacket being quite heavy and it being annoying to move around all of the fabric, especially around a domestic machine, but that's why it's very lucky that we've got the table that we're working with, because everything's super easy. But if anything, I also just wanted to say that I think it's really good because it really shows you can make anything with a domestic machine, especially a good domestic machine. And I really do recommend this Necchi machine. Not even in an advert way, I'm not being paid to say it. We have come out here and spent some time with the brand. I think this machine is amazing. What do you think, Gio? I mean, I think it's honestly like a good product, and I can make a jacket from scratch on this domestic machine that is a startup machine. You can literally learn how to sew and you won't need to upgrade, and you can stick with this machine for your whole journey. You've got the extendable table. We're living proof that you can literally sew on the streets, minimal tools. We bought everything that we needed for this project in Rome on the day, and we made the decision to do it on the day. Of course, me and Gio are a little bit more experienced in the clothing realm in ways, so you know, we're a bit more professional, I guess, at it. So it's like, of course we're going to finish the project, but it's just a good example of how you can use these machines, and so far so good. I very much recommend this. This machine we're using is the C35 by Necchi. It's kind of new. It's like made for creators. It's like the Creator 35, you know. And then the other one that I've taken to New York and Italy on similar trips to this, but less tutorials, more vlogs. That was the Necchi Q132A. And that is an amazing machine. It's like the classic sort of heavy duty domestic, but it's a proper brute force machine. I find there's a lot of similarities between the two. This Creator is a lot more of a powerhouse on slow stitches, which is actually really nice because it means you can be a bit more intricate with what you're sewing. So yeah, I heavily recommend this machine. This is not a paid advert, but a lot of people ask me where to get their first machine from in the WhatsApp group chat, or just they text me on Instagram. And I think it's important to be able to provide an answer to that. And what better than to mix with a sewing company that I've already used for years to be able to showcase a perfect product for you guys to jump into sewing. If you already have a machine, this doesn't apply to you. But obviously, if you're thinking about getting a machine, buy one that's going to last. These are designed in Italy, and the company is over 100 years old. It all makes sense, you know, it all makes sense. Anyway, let's sew this ribbing. So at the moment, I'm just focusing on how much ribbing I want to do for the cuffs of this jacket. I realize this ribbing is a little bit like thin. It's still quite nice stuff, but it is a little bit thin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 layers, and we're just going to stitch this down 2 layers. And then as usual, if you've ever watched any of my tutorials about ribbing, if you haven't, then I will explain anyway. But if you have, we're doing the same procedure where then we you have your ribbing, stitch down this line, and then once you've stitched down that line, you turn it inside out, and then you can visually see what's going on with your ribbing. So obviously that would be your cuff. It's going to be quite thick now. We've obviously got the 2 layers, which will be super nice. The way we're going to do this is we got our 2 layers right there. We're going to stitch them together just down this line, and then this will be one of our openings down here. That's going to stitch to one of our sleeves all the way around. We're basically going to connect this sleeve with the ribbing to this sleeve with the ribbing, and then the same with these 2 sleeves over here. But I'm basically just going to cut 2 of these because obviously we need 2 cuffs, and I kind of don't have enough ribbing. There's no more left, is there? So I think I'm going to have to do both wrists this wide, which will still be really nice because you can stretch it and it will sort of like cinch in, and as long as I can get my hand through there, which I can, and it will just be quite stuck to the hand, which will be quite nice. So So now we're going to turn this inside out, but only one half. So just like that, and we can kind of test the cuff at this point to make sure that it works, and that is super, super nice. Along the bottom of the sleeve that runs all the way down the side seam, connects to the ribbing all the way up the side seam and then all the way up the bottom of the sleeve, you have one seam. And basically that one seam, and we say it quite a lot in these tutorials where you're sort of building the garment from the inside and then turning it outside in at the end. You want to make sure that this seam stays super straight. If there is a twist like this, your whole garment is going to be messed up. So you basically need to make sure that when you're attaching things like cuffs, because this cuff right here, we're going to be attaching to both of these sleeves, this top one and this bottom one. We need to make sure that there is no twists. So this seam right here in the cuff, it basically needs to follow that seam all the way around, but there's no twists and turns. The way we're gonna do this is we've got this bottom seam here. This is the one we're talking about. This runs all the way to the other arm on the inside lining. We're gonna put this sleeve in this cuff and we're gonna match up that seam. Gio does not think this is gonna work. I am hopeful. We connected up that stitch there, that seam on the outer shell with the seam on the ribbing. And we're basically just gonna use that to do our first few stitches from the insides. And then we're basically gonna plant our needle into the fabric and then slowly pull this round, and then it should open up the elastic. We're gonna have to stretch this quite far. So yeah, wish me luck. So, as you can see, we've basically just stitched in one side of the ribbing for our cuffs. And you can see that the seam on the ribbing material runs all the way down the arm. And then obviously that sort of seam travels all the way down through the ribbing, and then it actually still consistently goes through the lining and then onto the bottom of the arm of the other panel here. Now this is all going to turn inside out, but to be able to turn it inside out, we're basically going to need to do the exact same thing that we just did where we're stitching the front facing of the ribbing to the front facing of our sleeve cuff. Basically going to need to do the exact same thing to the other side, just like this. So this is how we're going to do this. So basically, we're going to turn this sleeve with the ribbing inside out, and we're going to turn the other sleeve inside out too. And this is the same two sleeves that are on the right side of the garment. We're not doing it with one random sleeve on the other side and one random sleeve. They all run down that sort of stitch that runs all the way up through the arm, and then obviously carry on through the ribbing and then up the other side. So it's the sleeve on the same side, not the sleeve on the other side. Now we've turned it inside out, we should have something that looks a little bit like this. And then again, you can follow that seam on the ribbing, follow it all the way down, and you can see that the seam of the arm, the side seam of the main sort of outer shell across the ribbing, follow that side seam up. And we can turn that sleeve inside out too. Now, we are connecting these two right here. The way we are going to do that is we can sort of wrap the ribbing round, and you can see that you've got your front facing here. And we're basically going to match up the exact same way, making sure that there is no twists and turns in any of these sleeves. We're going to match up the seam on the ribbing right here needs to connect with the inside bottom seam of the sleeve. Make sure you're not getting it confused by the one a little bit further up. And the way to test that is you can follow the bottom seam and it should connect perfectly with the side seam, and then travel all the way up through the side seam again. We're basically connecting that bottom seam of your cuff / sleeve. We're connecting that with the seam on the ribbing. And then we're basically just gonna stitch all around this right here. I just stitched around the other one, and you can now see that middle seam right there, it follows all the way through. There is no twists and turns in my sleeve at all. So it means, I'll give you a very good demonstration, you can actually pull the main panel through just from the ribbing right here, and it will literally pull the lining through. And as you can see, now this cuff is functional. Wow. Look at that, Gio. So now we have a fully functional cuff that is seamless both sides, and I can show you that it is fully seamless both sides because there is no stitch marks right there. So remember, I just want to reiterate it again, is that your seam that runs all the way down your arm, down the side seam, through the ribbing, and then back up the other side to mirror that same right hand arm or left hand arm, outer shell and lining. You want to sew the front facing and match the seam of the ribbing with the bottom seam of the sleeve cuff, and then from there you can just do the exact same with the other side. I'm going to do the other cuff now. I'm going to get Gio to film it. We are losing so much energy over here, but we're very excited to finish this. This is probably going to be a daily wear for me, to be honest, and this whole process has been incredible. Before we reflect, let's finish the jacket. Look at this. Just before we get all excited, I'm basically going to turn this inside out once more, and that is because I'm just going to pull that all the way through, and the same with this, all the way through, and then we're going to connect this top collar, and we're going to pull this up and connect the inside lining facing to the collar. And we're going to stitch that in with the front facings the same way we did with the outside, just like that. We're going to stitch all along. I'll pin it and show you. So it's quite hard to see what Gio's doing right now, but he's actually stitching the front facing of the lining to the collar. And this is all inside out at the moment. When we turn this outside in and the cuffs are done, then it will all be seamless. And then it's literally just inputting the zip. And then the last two panel pieces that we have to do are the zip cover on the inside. And then you remember we had the zip cover on the outside. So yeah, we're getting there.
Crazy.
Does look crazy. That stitch along the inside of that neckline, basically when we turn it outside in again, you can see it's seamless both sides there. And then obviously cuffs seamless, bottom of the jacket completely seamless from outside and inside. And yeah, we're really getting there now. It's so late, it's like 2:30, but we're nearly there. So all we have to do now is input the zipper and the zipper cover and the outside zipper cover, and then we are completely finished. So let's get to work. Now we're going to attach the zipper and the zip covers. So, as we explained, Gio, could you pass me the outside zip cover? As we don't want this zip cover to sort of go over the Necchi logo over here, we'd like it to fit and sort of go this way, so it kind of sits next to the pocket, just right there. This means that the inside zip cover is going to be on, you're looking at this, your right and my technical left, sort of wearer's left. So the zip cover is going to be on this side right here. So wearer's left, if your sort of outside zip cover is going to sort of fold over your wearer's left too. So you're right if you're looking at the sort of image right now. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to sew our zipper to the inside cover, and then we're going to do the same thing we do with all the zippers that are built from all of the sort of seamless seam jackets we put together, and that is the fold sort of pin mechanism. And then we're going to sort of get that perfect and then do the exact same for the other side, and then eventually it will build this zipper out. I haven't explained that the best, but essentially we're going to sew our zipper to the inside cover, stitch the inside cover with the side of our zipper into this wearer's left, and then the wearer's right. We are going to do the exact same with the other side of the zipper, but this time with the outside zip cover. And then they will just both match up because it will be the perfect sort of like length, and everything will sort of just mold together perfectly. So let's do it. So this is the wearer's left like we showed just a minute ago. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to flip this round and work from the inside of the jacket. What we're going to do is we are going to know that that's going to slot in there perfectly. But we're actually going to flip this and we're going to pin this down all the way up. So now we're working sort of like front facings of the lining against the back of your zip cover. So the back, not the front facing, the back. We can kind of trim this a little bit too before we go for it. So I'm just pinning along this, and we know it matches up. Our zipper is slightly a little bit longer, but we're going to kind of tuck that in when we get to sewing it all. I'm just going to snip this little bit of thread. But we know this fits because the zipper inside cover is a perfect length. Right now we're just sewing the facing together. So front facing of the lining with the back of the zip cover, and your zip is already sewn in with a zipper foot, or at least your needle set to the left side so it hugs them zipper teeth. Now we're going to do the same stitch all the way down there again, but make sure to be careful you're not sewing the outer shell of your jacket. You're just sewing all the way down this, and the reason being so is because once it's stitched we're going to turn it inside out, and then we're basically going to manually fold the outside so it matches up perfectly with the inside, and then we're going to sew it down. So first let's sew this zip in place. So now you can see that we have stitched in that inside zip cover there, and you can see when I flip that stitching that we've just made, it perfectly lines up there. And now we can sort of flip that again and get the outside of the jacket, and you can see that this is naturally going to be making a sort of fold, and we can sort of follow that fold on the outside of the jacket. With the outside of this shell, you can see as long as we're following this stitch mark, we know that we're going to catch the inside front facing and the lining. So here, I'm going to throw a pin just right in there. And I can prove it because on the inside, you can see it's on top of that front facing. We're just going to do that all the way up. We're going to add pins all the way up this jacket and slowly fold this outer shell in and throw pins. Can match the other side, make sure that it's catching, and this will make a nice seamless outside shell zipper stitch mark, and kind of slowly move our way up. And I'd like to go maybe like 1/3 of a way up, and then probably start from the top just to make sure you don't have any bunching of fabric, but it should be all good. See, this is what's great about this machine, is that like I'm literally sewing over that weird plastic bit at the bottom of the zip with another 4 layers and a wadding, and normally the machine would just jam and it doesn't work at all, but this C35 is really nice because it does just trudge through the fabrics, and it does it at a slow speed too. See, it just eats up the fabric. We're really nearing the end here, and I'm loving the look of it. Perfectly installed zipper, and zipper cover. Just to reiterate that again, I basically sewed the side of the zip that was on my wearer's left to the zipper cover on the inside, and then I sewed the back facing of the zipper cover with the zip integrated to the inside lining front facing. The good side was facing basically this back bit of the zip cover. I sewed them together and then it naturally sort of folds over into the gap in between the outer shell fabric, and then I just sort of folded and pinned, and you can sort of line that fold and pin up with the stitch that you already made, and then it will obviously know that that stitch lines up perfectly with this line right here. And that is it. This zipper is now integrated into the wearer's left, and then now I'm going to pass you to Sergio, and he is going to show you how to put the outer zip cover into place with the other side of the tape of the zip, and then we will be completely finished with this jacket. It's very late, but we really wanted to get it done tonight because we're flying home tomorrow. So, Gio, leaving it to you.
So, for the front, we're gonna follow the same logic that we did with the shield, but this time we're gonna have the outer shell facing up, and we're gonna grab this part of the zipper that isn't attached to anything, and we're gonna place the zip cover just in the place we want. So I'm gonna start pinning it here, and then I'll sew along this line. I'll show you.
Basically, Gio is sewing very close to the edge because with the seam allowance, when he then integrates it into the jacket, it will then cover the stitch that he's making.
Yeah, that's it. Follow Jack advice, not me. Now we have the zipper cover sewn along the edge of the other part of the zipper, and now we're gonna do the same thing we did with the shield and actually start sewing it in the lining part first. So then we fold it over and we just top stitch the front. Now I've pinned the zipper cover and the zipper to the good side of the lining, like this. Exactly the same that we did with the zipper shield. So we're gonna sew along this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then just fold it over to the inside and fold the top over and top stitch, and then we are good. Yeah, so I'm stitching 1/4 inch seam allowance. Nice. Because it's the actual seam allowance that it's incorporated on the pattern. And then we're gonna fold over the top here where you see the stitching, and we're gonna top stitch right at the seam allowance so it doesn't show where the sewing is. So I stopped early at this because I wanted to make sure to just tuck the zipper the proper way. Now we can just fold this and just top stitch, basically closing the garment. Jack is gonna do it. He's gonna finish the garment and it's gonna be amazing. We're gonna make some shots of it when we finish, and I'm so happy how it turned out. I don't know about you, but yeah, this garment is crazy.
We are on the last stitch of the entire jacket. What is the time, Gio? It's like 3:30 in the morning. So we've got a flight to catch tomorrow. Booked we should, if I get this stitch done in the next minute, we should be able to go straight to sleep after this and then wake up tomorrow, go to Bologna, and before the flight get some lunch and take some videos of this jacket so you guys can see what it looks like on person. But I just tried it on myself finished, well, with the arms on and the cuffs and the collar, and it looks really, really, really good. We're both incredibly happy with it. Obviously Gio made the pattern, we've sewn it here in Italy. Just before I make this last stitch, yeah, just thought I'd say that it's been a long process, but I'm about to make the last stitch. It's about to be incredible. I'm gonna film the last stitch being made. Let's do it. See, think of how many layers this is, and it's just ripping straight through it. It's crazy. Domestic machine too. We finished the jacket. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video. So the vlog actually hasn't finished. Ollie has very kindly picked me up from the airport. We are haggling. It won't let me send you the address, so you need to pay in advance. Does that mean she's down for it? Yeah. We're like basically like an hour away on the way drive back from the airport, and we're trying to pick up an A0 plotter printer, which means that I can print out patterns quicker, better.
So that means that's a yes, sure.
That's a yes. She is persuaded. She's said, this message thread is so funny. At the beginning it goes through, I've managed to haggle her and say 500 and then 550 to get her out her house at 9:58. Let's see if she's down for it. She said yes and no, very tired, suffering from night blindness. So are you in Basingstoke or nearby? We have couriers to pay to collect. Yes, but you come today, 550 cash. Otherwise I find another one local. You supplied a hex screwdriver to take it apart, and you got a deal. We're at Fleet. She's accepted. So we now have an A0 plotter printer, well, soon, to be able to print the patterns. This is just like a little extra bit of the video, but it's so fun. It's on. We've got the printer. We picked it up. Wow, let's go.